Start my YouTube stream too. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome one and all to yet another episode of WhickTV. It's been a while since we've done an open call-in show. It's been too long, in my opinion. Open call-in shows are one of my favorite things to do. It allows me to have a wonderful co-host, right? Lord Fungus is the one we have chosen for today. A mod in my community, extra special time, right? And it also lets me talk to you, right? The viewer, the audience, and my detractors, the people who think I have a bad take or have a problem with me. It allows them a chance to come in and talk to me about it. Show me the error of my ways if they can. I guess we will see. But hello YouTube, hello Twitch. Welcome to you both. If you're liking this content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Twitch, hit that follow button. But for now, I want to say hi to Lord Fungus. Hello, Lord Fungus.
Oh, hiya. I'm Fungus. I'm a moderator in Wix community. I suppose I'm known as the nice one, along with Testy. I'm sure they'll beat it out of me eventually, though. Notable Wick feats, I guess, include quirky call-ins like my President Sunday imitation, my David Attenborough call-in, and I guess a bit about me. I'm a Pokemon enthusiast, a dungeon master with 8 years experience, ex-Shakespearean actor, almost fluent in Irish. Yes, I'm very interesting, but today is about you, dear viewers. Call in. Get it off your chest.
Indeed. So I don't know if this is a blessing or a curse, but right before we went live, I was made aware of a really, really stupid take someone made about a Supreme Court case that was litigated and released, I believe, either today or it might have been Monday. It was this week. It was definitely released this week. So just to give some context here, there was a cement mixing company who is trying to sue a union for their workers going on strike and allegedly purposefully and maliciously destroying their company's property before they went on strike. So some of the deets to just get you up on things, right? And the facts are contested in the case. But as I can tell, the union sent people to put the bags, get the cement bags from the company to mix it up in trucks, and then they went on strike, like 2 hours after that they did this. And if you aren't familiar with cement, it will harden and become useless, right? Unless it's kept spinning in a truck and things like that, or it's set, right? So the company alleges that the union did this on purpose to maliciously destroy company property. The union says, no, this wasn't the case. Now, the Supreme Court ruled in an 8-1 decision that the company is able to bring a lawsuit against the union, right? Is to be able to bring a civil tortion, right, lawsuit against the union itself. It does not, and I want to repeat, it does not say which party is at fault in this. It does not give an award to either party of victory in the cases. It simply allows the case to go forward. There are a lot of people online who I'm not sure if they understand the ramifications of what they're advocating for, but who say that this Supreme Court decision was erroneous and that it's going to lead to the breaking up and further degradation of unions. So I know you're not American, Lord Fungus.
Yeah.
But what's your initial thoughts here?
This isn't too American for me to have an opinion. I guess I'm a really big believer in like workers' rights and unions and stuff. But in America, can't you like sue anyone for anything? Isn't there a big culture
No,
of suing
there are limits to tort reform. Like there's the tort law. There are limits to it. I'm not a lawyer, right? I can't give you the exact. But no, you can't just sue anyone for anything. I mean, you might be able to try, but frivolous lawsuits will just almost always just get thrown out. Like it won't go anywhere. But in this case, right, there are protections, specific federal protections for unions. And one of those protections, as I understand it, is that they can't be sued for going on strike. You can't sue a union for going on strike. What makes this case interesting enough that the Supreme Court took it is that's not what is being alleged. They are not suing the union for going on strike. They're saying, you went on strike after purposefully mixing our cement, which you knew had a shelf life of hours. And then, right, because of that, this is intentional destruction of company property, and you being on strike doesn't absolve you of your duty to care to our equipment in this case, because you did not take the reasonable steps that you would be needed to take to make sure you did not destroy our property, right?
I mean, I think that's really fair, right? That's got to be, because you can choose when you go. You can choose when you go on strike. I suppose, would there have been like something terrible that happened after they mix in between the few hours that they mixed the cement?
I don't know. Like I can't tell you which party is at fault here. Like I don't know if the allegations by the company are accurate, right? I don't know. That wasn't what was being litigated. What was being litigated was if the company has the right to their day in court, right, over their property. And again, I think they absolutely do, in my opinion, right? And I think this is just the correct opinion. If a company's property is destroyed, right, through negligence or gross negligence or intent by their employees, they need to have some sort of recourse against those employees or against the union, right? And it is claiming that the union did this purposefully and intentionally. Whether or not they did, I don't know. Like, so I can't tell you that. But this sets precedent, right? So this is the worry from the side that would be against me, right? That this precedent's going to be used to further degrade unions and degrade union power. There's just going to be bogged down in lawsuits over frivolous things, like if a dairy company, right, if they go on strike, or employees at a grocery store, let's say, if there's employees at a grocery store, and there's produce that has a shelf life, and they go on strike, and the produce spoils. Would or should those employees be held responsible for the loss of that property? But I think that's I don't think that worry is exactly fair. Because this again isn't what the company is alleging happened. It would be more akin to that the employees in the grocery store purposely picking up, using company funds to buy the produce, knowing they were going to be on strike for a time that it would absolutely spoil, right? And knowing that they were about to abandon it, right? And they did this anyway. I think that would be the difference. It's not simply, oh, there's produce already on the shelf and we go on strike. It's they're buying this produce knowing that in an hour or two they're going to dip for a month or so, right?
They definitely knew what they were doing, for sure.
Yeah, and as 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 says, the rotating barrel used for cement mixing is completely done forever. Yes, the trucks are also ruined in this process, right?
Yeah, it's like, if you know what you're doing, they can't be sued for going on strike, but surely they should be able to be sued for damaging company property.
Yeah, I mean
you can go on strike at any time. That's like a really interesting one. I mean, it's interesting, but I don't see how someone could disagree that you can't sue these people for the result of the choice to go on strike. Maybe you can, like, maybe because to some people it's just really holy. Like, unions are super holy. I know that's like I'm like, so acting is like one of the more unionized professions in the world, I think. So we soy out over unions.
To Testie's point here, the trucks were saved, but they had to be saved, right? Obviously, right? There was potential damage that would have happened to the trucks had the company not taken immediate action in order to save that, right? So if, for example, during a strike, right, or just before a strike, they, I don't know, light a fire, right? And that fire starts to burn down the building. Even though the company's still able to save that building and damages are minimal to that building, that doesn't absolve the workers of gross negligence or intent if they set that fire, right? It absolutely doesn't. But yeah, I don't know. It's a call-in show though. I don't want to rant too much on this. It was just I saw a lot of diagnosably dumb takes, ignorant takes on this. People who hadn't read the case, hadn't read the law, hadn't read the Supreme Court opinion, and while I haven't read the entire Supreme Court opinion, I have read quite a bit of it, and I'm still reading it as we speak, right? I have it up on my other screen. I'm going through it. And there are people who are much more knowledgeable than me in my community who actually practice case law and do it for a living, and I've consulted with them on this, and yeah, this is open and shut. This is why it's an 8-1 decision, right, for the Supreme Court. This wasn't split. This wasn't mixed. This was pretty open and shut, kind of, yeah, of course they should be allowed to sue. The dissenting opinion I have not read yet, but I will do that, and I will get to it.
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
I was asked for my opinion on this, with just like my vibe on it, really, because
Well, yeah,
I
you're
have
not a
not read
lawyer,
anything.
right? Yeah.
I don't know anything about. I did broadcast law for a little bit, not like lawyer law type thing. It was like a college module. I have no idea how any of this stuff works, so I'm just giving my vibe opinion,
Yeah,
right?
I got you.
So I'm not educated on it.
Vibe opinions are valid. We allow that, right? And
They're
because
valid.
it's a conceptual thing too,
Right.
right? Like we don't just make our morals on the law, right? Something can be legal and immoral, right? And that's, I mean, we would rail against those laws, I would hope, or we would say those laws should be changed. But just because something is legal doesn't make it immoral, or doesn't make it moral or immoral. It's just legal or illegal. But in this case, I think that on a moral sense, again, a company, there is a duty of care that an employee has to the equipment and material given to them under their care by the employer. There's lines here, right? Obviously, I don't think a grocery store worker who goes on strike, right? And then it happens that some of the stock in the grocery store doesn't sell, goes bad. I don't think they should be held liable for that. But I do think that if they, again, knowing they are about to go strike, use the company money to purchase the product, put the product on the shelves, knowing that they were going to be gone, yes, absolutely hold them liable. But this is an open call-in show, so it's not about us today. It's about you. It's about you. Okay? So what you're going to do, if you want to call into us, right, and talk about anything. You could have your opinions on this. You think I'm a dumbass for this? Come and tell me. Prove I'm a dumbass in front of all my audience, right? All my lovely WhickTV viewers, right? That is your right. But here you go. Here's the Discord link.
And also, if you're just a viewer and have no other reason to join the Discord, I made a bingo card for today's stream, really off the top of my head. If you can be within the first few people to send me a filled line or a filled color on the bingo card, you'll get a bingo champion role. So, big exciting. Join the Discord anyway if you're just a viewer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But you click that link, gang. Okay, you click that link. You accept the rules. Then you go backstage. So you join the top of the Discord. There's a backstage voice channel. Yeah, go in there, and we'll pull you down, and we will talk to you. Right? And you can talk about whatever you like. If you want to just hang out, we can just hang out. But you guys excited for Diablo 4 releasing in a couple hours here? If you bought the early edition or whatever.
Which class are you going to play, Wick?
I don't know. Probably Barbarian. I'm sad there's no Paladin, to be honest with you. I'm sad that there's no Paladin. I like Paladin. Paladin's my favorite class, okay? Maybe it's my religious background, but I like the concept, right, of a holy warrior against the demons, right? That I just like it. I like it conceptually, right? So
you're also a D&D nut, aren't you?
A little bit.
Bit of a roleplay fanatic.
I like paladins and Dungeons and Dragons too. I like role playing a holy warrior as well.
What do you think about the restriction in the rules that they have to be lawful good? It's not like that in every system, but in a lot of it. I don't like
that. I ignore that restriction, to be honest with you. I don't think I just ignore morality systems in these things. Like, I don't want you to write down what your character is, right? I don't think my players should be able to choose their alignment. Their alignment is based on the actions that they do. Oh, Weirdo Watcher, Wick, you got the best beard on Twitch. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We have a
Let's
caller, though,
go.
before we get too many compliments. Hello.
What's up? How we doing, Wick?
Feline Father, it's been a minute. For those of you who
It
don't
has been a
know,
minute.
he used to come on my show back in the day, okay? Like, I'm talking a year and a half, 2 years ago, when we had like 10 viewers max. Feline Father would hop in and argue with us about various topics. What you been up to?
Yeah. I was around during the inception, man. Yeah. No. I've been getting back to it. Getting back into school and stuff. Like COVID shit really hit me hard.
Yeah.
But I'm back on the rebound. Be finishing my undergrad here soon. Getting some grad programs.
Beautiful.
So things are on the up, bro.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you read anything? I'm sorry to bring the Supreme Court thing up again, but
I
have you
do read.
anything?
I have read. Yeah, I read.
What are your thoughts here?
Oh, that Supreme Court thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the outcome is, but like, if it turns out to the case that those dudes did start to like stop the concrete, let it dry in the trucks, and then struck, like, yeah, those guys go down.
Well, the claim is, okay, the claim is that they went and they mixed it in the trucks and then they went on strike, right? So
Yeah, they should, 100%.
that's the claim. Whether or not that's what happened, the facts will be
Yeah,
litigated in court, right? But
if that's the claim and the claim is true, then yeah, those dudes should go down. I mean, like the whole thing of like one of the big things with being union stuff is needs to be like mature, incredible stuff. So like big things with unions, it's like if they're gonna go on strike, they let people know when the strike's gonna happen. Let the employers know when the strike's gonna happen. If they were trying to like pop this up, like trying to sneak up on them with that, I mean it's really immature, and it's like that brings down the credibility like of their union, and what they're doing. So
yeah, we'll see,
yeah.
right? You'll see. But what did you have to talk to us about today? What do we owe the pleasure, sir?
Bro, let me tell you. Okay, so you remember when I was streaming, I was doing like a lot of COVID stuff, right?
Yeah. Do you have a camera, by the way?
Oh yeah, let me turn it on. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Man.
please.
Turn that.
People
bad
want
boy
to see your
on.
lovely face. That's all.
Well, it's not gonna be that good of a look there. I got really bad lighting down here, but yeah,
Close enough for government work.
yeah, hell yeah, man. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So yeah, when I was streaming, doing all that stuff, I was doing like COVID shit, right? And mRNA vaccines, everyone's freaking out about all that dumb shit, right? I kind of want to let you know, like, so have you heard about like the most recent advancements that have been happening with like COVID, like with like mRNA vaccines and shit like that?
I confess I haven't been following it.
Yeah, not many people have. So when I was talking about that stuff a while ago, right? I was letting people know, like, this is like the dawning, the era of like, it's gonna be like big like medical breakthroughs, because like this mRNA vaccine technology, this shit's tight, right? And we're just starting to like see the fruiting bud of this research, right? So currently, as it is, there is a vaccine in the works for like HIV vaccine, right? They're working on a vaccine. It's in stage 2 right now that is used in combination with like a certain kind of cancer treatment, and it reduces the recidivation of melanoma cancer by 60%, which is tight, because melanoma cancer fucks people up real bad. And they're like, I mean, they're gonna start adapting it for like the flu vaccine. It's a really super big deal, super tight. It's really awesome, man.
Neat. What implications does this have, though? Right? Like, what does that mean for the society, for culture, in your opinion?
Oh, it's mean like other than the fact that we're gonna have a vaccine for HIV. I mean that's a huge thing. I mean, so melanoma cancer is one of the most deadly cancers out there. So we're gonna have people that are gonna be surviving that, right? Yeah. We're gonna have people that are gonna not have, like HIV is could potentially be a disease of the past, right? I mean, if we're just talking about like a healthier community and a healthier world, I mean, it's big things. The mRNA vaccine technology, that's like originally what it was being researched for, was that shit. So the fact that it's finally come to fruition like that is really cool. But I mean, it has a whole bunch of different things you can adapt it to. So
Neat.
pretty tight, man.
It's hard. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you, Feline. Or
pop
should I
off.
call you Daddy? Feline Father.
You know,
Daddy,
hey, your
Daddy.
choice.
Okay, fair enough. It's interesting, but it's hard for me to engage with it because I'm not a biologist, nor am I someone who has very much expertise in vaccine, mRNA research, any of this. So
Yeah,
I could say neat. You know what I mean? Like neat, right?
yeah. No, fair enough. Let's see. Let's bring up another really cool thing. Let's see. Okay, here's something. So, do you currently know what's going on with oranges?
With oranges, no, tell me.
Yeah. So there is a kind of like I think it's a viral infection that's been going on, and currently the ability to move like oranges and the ability to move like citrus across state lines is literally almost impossible because of how like infectious this disease is.
Really?
Pretty
So they're
bad.
kind of quarantining the oranges, like Florida
Yeah, it's
oranges
like a
can't go
citrus.
to California, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
It's
not
like
know
yeah,
this.
it's really it's like devastating populations right now.
I think I got oranges from the supermarket not terribly long ago, right?
Yeah.
Been a minute, but like, is this a recent thing or?
I think it's been going on the last couple months. Like you can still buy them, but it's like you can't move like seeds, you can't move like anything like any like fruit product across state lines now.
Damn. What do you think
Yeah,
about
man.
that, Fungus? What's your take on the oranges, the orange genocide that we're facing right now?
Dude, orange genocide.
Well, I do apologize. I was putting your Discord in the thing again. Is it that oranges is that there's an embargo on
Wow,
oranges?
you didn't listen at all.
No, I didn't.
Wonderful.
That's right. Just like my ex-wife. That's okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So apparently there's a viral infection amongst the orange populace, right?
Like citrus,
And
yeah.
so they are segregating the oranges. In other words, you can't move seed across state lines. There's a lot of methods they're using to try to stop the spread of this very
What? That's
virulent
great.
disease.
It's great that they put harsh restrictions on a really dangerous disease for
Wild, right?
food. That's
What a
good,
novel
right?
what a novel concept, right? Yeah.
Isn't it just really, really good? Okay.
It is a good
I
thing.
love
No, it's
oranges.
a good thing. It's a good thing. Don't get me wrong.
Oranges
'cause
don't
really,
have rights,
It's a
I
really,
agree.
it's a really infectious virus. It's really bad. The disease that's getting spread. So.
Yeah, and I really like prevention over cure, right? Ever since I started my honey lemon and ginger drink, I no longer get colds and flus as bad as I used to. And I'm in a cold country. I love a bit of citrus in my diet, but I'm willing to make the sacrifice, even though I don't live in America. An infectious disease for oranges would be hell for my diet.
How brave.
Yeah.
Stunning. Even.
No, but you should absolutely restrict
sure.
like the trade of oranges. You can't move seeds across county lines. That's fine.
Yeah, pretty wild.
I don't know much about farming, even though I am Irish.
Demonstrates, I don't want to say even a weakness, right? Because it's not a weakness, but just a vulnerability in our kind of logistics on how we get food and how we produce food here in America and import food, etc. I don't know how to fix it, right? But it is something we should be aware of, that these things aren't like we take it for granted a lot of times. Like it just appears in our supermarket, like, oh, right. It's just there, but we don't take into account the process, the very complex process at times that it takes
why
to
would
get.
why would we need to? You know, I mean, why would we need to? I mean,
yeah, it's so convenient, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of potatoes, because you said you're Irish.
Yeah.
Did you know? So I'm sure you've heard of the old adage that like the Catholic Church used to say that potatoes were evil, right?
I've actually never heard anything with regards to the Catholic Church saying potatoes are evil. This is news to me. This is new Irish lore. Gimme.
Yeah, dude. Back in the dude, let me drop this hot steaming lore on you. Okay, so back in the day, right? They used to say that like potatoes were like the devil's crop, right? And people think that it's just like, oh, that's like bad, like, this is religion being dumb, right? Blah 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 blah. When in actuality, so potatoes can kill you, like the roots. If you eat the roots, they'll kill you, because of the toxins they produce. So they do kill people, but they didn't become like a crop until people realized, like, oh, just cut the fucking roots off. You can make like soup with it, or like stew. But yeah.
Cool.
So is this like one of the things that religions would do to like structure society? They would say it's like the devil's crop, and they would leverage their
No.
position as like the head of
No,
just to be like,
they literally just say that because it killed people.
oh,
So it's
gotcha,
like, don't eat
okay.
this. Yeah.
Like I always thought that my kind of thought on it is like it's a lot of religions can't eat pig, but I would have thought that that's kind of like they made it like a religious teaching when it's actually a social teaching, I think.
Oh, like hoof creatures or something.
Yeah, like but like
Yeah.
pigs in like a desert climate are probably still are full of like diseases and stuff. That was just my thought. So it might be like, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
That's just my thought on
I
it.
think part of that was also because like pigs, like they'll eat anything, like literally, like pigs will eat other pigs, and they saw
They eat
that
their
and
own
they're like,
poop.
ew. Yeah, so they saw that and like, you probably shouldn't eat that because it eats other stuff that that's bad. But
You are what you eat.
I like bacon. That's all I
True.
gotta say. Feline, it's been a pleasure. We got a little bit of a line.
yeah, bro.
Right? But I will
Yeah.
have you on again when we have a more robust scientific discussion, right?
Yeah, bro. Bring me on,
I'm
dude. I'll talk about my
absolutely-
research I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely gonna have you, and,
Yeah.
and when we can plan a little better, right? The open call-in shows
Hell
are great,
yeah.
but like neat to the vaccine stuff, like cool to the mRNA
Yeah.
stuff. But I'll bring some people
Yeah.
on for you, buddy. Okay, for now though,
All right, bud. Yeah.
to the void.
To the
The
void.
Hey, next caller, gang.
Next caller.
Hello.
Hello.
You're live. You're a little low. Can you turn yourself up with just a tad?
Yeah. Let me check my settings.
And remember, gang, while he's doing that, this is an open call-in show. If you want to call in and talk to us, feel free. Hit that Discord link my mods will provide it on chat. You come in backstage after you accept the rules, and we'll bring you on when it's your turn.
And I'll restate it. If you're not interested in calling in, that's fine too. You still have an incentive to join the Discord. Come, I've made a bingo card, especially if you with common occurrences that happen on Wick stream. If you come in, it's pinned in the general chat.
And it is
You
the
come in?
1st of June. It's the 1st of June, so that means, what's that mean, gang? It means that you get to sub to me, right? Renew your subs if they've expired, right? We can start making me money right now. So give some subs, super chats, all that. How's your settings looking?
Hopefully this is better.
Yes, much better. What do we owe the honor, sir?
Honestly, it was random happenstance that I bumped into your Twitter thread with one of these idiots that was arguing about the Supreme Court case.
Oh, beautiful.
And was basically watching you dunk on somebody, and noticed that you had said, in 30 minutes I'm going live with a call-in show, and that was 30 minutes ago, so here I am.
Oh, I don't lie, right? So, no, welcome. Okay, so you're calling them idiots. Principles before politics. Is it okay if I just call you principles?
Principles is fun, yeah?
Principles. Okay, principles. What's your thoughts here? What's your understanding? Go ahead.
Well, so I've read what I would say is essentially the entire decision. I skipped around a little bit in Justice Jackson's dissent because it was a little bit verbose. And there were places where it kind of wasn't furthering her argument. It was giving a bunch of legal examples, and it's like, okay, if I get the point, I'm cutting to the next point. But other than that, I've read it top to bottom. And a couple of the items that I see people chatting about and seemingly not understanding, it's in the decision. The thing that you brought up about like grocery store workers and dairy spoilage.
Yes.
That is in the majority opinion on pages 9 and 10. Specifically, it is Lumbee Farms Corp., which was a raw poultry processing factory. Central Oklahoma Milk Producers Association was milk truck drivers, and Leprino Cheese Company was a cheese factory. And in all three cases, those were protected strikes.
In this decision, to be clear, so if it was due to spoilage, this majority decision does not apply to those cases, correct?
Correct. It doesn't apply to that at all. There's the legal reasoning here is that and this is one of these things, like, this was on frickin' Mythbusters. Like, I'm blown away that so many people forgot about this, that if you leave cement in a cement truck, like, they blew up a cement truck because you can't get the cement back out of it. Like,
I'm with you here, buddy. I'm with you. It is very frustrating to me. And if you may,
the reason this is different. Sorry, the reason this is different is because you have to batch the cement literally right before you pour it. So this isn't them walking off the job in the middle of the day. This is them reporting to a job, getting the cement mixed, and then walking off. That's like, the union absolutely knew they were striking that day. You don't go pick up the cement and then strike. It's purposeful.
I understand. I think that, for me, the frustrating part of it is the pedantry involved, right? So I did make a mistake in my back and forth with one of these gentlemen, and I'll own up to the mistake, that I said that they were suing because the trucks got damaged, right? And they're not. They're suing because the cement got damaged. The cement, the product, was wasted, and that cost them hundreds and thousands of dollars, right? That was a mistake on my part. But that does not change the thrust or the overall correctness of my argument. That a company, if employees purposely or through gross negligence damage company property, right, by going on strike, then yes, they should be held legally liable for it, right? Now, there are lines here. As you said, there's carve-outs, there's exceptions. Even in the decision, spoilage doesn't count, right? But this isn't spoilage. This is fundamental difference. Is there anything else from the opinion that you think people are missing? Anything else that kind of shines a light onto the validity, or maybe takes away from the validity? If you skipped around in the dissenting opinion, right?
So I was going to say, the dissenting opinion, I think, is the most interesting part of this, because for all the people that I see talking about, oh, this is going to hurt workers' rights, not even the dissent is trying to argue that this wasn't sabotage. The dissent is merely saying the correct administrative procedure is send it to the National Labor Relations Board. And that's Justice Jackson's opinion, as far as I can tell, is the court shouldn't even rule on this. We should be handing it to the NLRB and letting them rule first. And then if there's a dispute about that ruling, then you take it to the Supreme Court. So not even the dissent is trying to say that this wasn't sabotage. The dissent is just saying we shouldn't even be ruling on whether or not it is.
And to be clear, the opinion itself, as I understand it, doesn't rule on if it's sabotage or not. What it's doing is simply saying, does this company have the right to have a day in court to prove its case?
Kind of both. Kind of both. So the actual outcome of the case is whether or not you get your day in court. That is absolutely true. But part of the ruling here has to do with and it's important to note this was joined by five other justices. 6 justices agreed with this logic, and the logic is that when you're performing
you
one
say
of the legal,
wasn't it an 8-1 decision? Am I?
It's an 8-1, but the Alito, I think, and Thomas. Okay. I think Thomas and Alito wrote concurring opinions.
Got you. Okay, carry on.
And I don't believe either one of them signed the majority opinion. So this was everyone who voted in the 8-1 majority except the 2 people who wrote concurring opinions. But the legal reasoning that they used here is that the test that you apply to determine whether or not a state tort law can be called in here, because basically this is saying, well, the legal challenge has to do with Washington State says you're allowed to sue them for the tort of property damage, but at the federal level you have the NLRA that says you're allowed to strike, blah blah. So how are you supposed to alleviate that tension? The test basically indicates that you have to have I can't remember the exact phrasing. I'm trying to skip through this while I'm talking, but basically that it has to be arguably defensible. What you did has to be arguably defensible in order for you to move on to the next element of the test.
Noted.
And 6 justices said you don't clear the bar of what you did was justifiable.
Noted. Hey, thank you for that. That's excellent. Why do you think that people do this? I know this is kind of like a vibe check, right? And just kind of asking, rather than facts, just kind of your read on things. Do you think that there is any giving as much charity as possible to the other side here? Do you think that there's anything we should be worried about when it comes to unions and attacks on unions out of this decision, or is it just kind of ironclad? Or do you think that there's at least some reasonable, rational, like, well, maybe this will get stretched out of its original intent? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I would love to kind of wax poetic and say I think it would be lovely if the outcome of this decision was that you were allowed to selectively target the individual asshats that caused the property damage if the rest of the union behaved properly. Again, it's in the I think it's in the summary of facts that there were 16 delivery drivers who had full cement trucks. 9 of them parked the truck and walked away. 7 of them parked the truck, then walked over to their manager and said, "I'm on strike. What do you want me to do about the truck full of cement?" I think the 7 drivers that handled it kind of professionally shouldn't be seeing their union dues get chewed away in a legal liability that was caused by somebody who arguably should have known better.
Interesting. I'd have to think about that more because I'm not sure I agree, but I'm not sure I disagree. Right? Like being able.
Yeah,
to
I have mixed feelings on it.
Right? I just don't know. I'd have to consider that more. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, you'd have to do like fact finding because if the union leaders egged people on and they were doing something they thought they were supposed to do, then then it's on the union leaders. But I'd still rather punish them and not every union member.
I understand. No, that makes sense, and that's the unfortunate part of these things. It's like collective bargaining, collective punishment. That sucks. That sucks.
Oh, yeah. If you can find a way to just to get out individual actors in the system, even that is kind of like is a thing worth discussing. Like should you be able to do that? I think you should, but because like you can abuse the individual action, or you can abuse the group action, group punishment thing.
A lot of the times, what happens though is, especially with bigger organizations, is they will scapegoat people, right? So in order to obfuscate any liability the company or the organization or the institution has, they'll say, well, no, it wasn't our institution systems, policies, or anything like that. It was just bad actors within the system. This guy, and this guy, and here, throw them to the wolves, right? I think that's something to be aware of, at least, when we talk about these things. I'm just not sure, right? It's contextual. And I don't think I can make any kind of blanket, okay, well, in every case, it should just be the company, or every case, it should just be the individual, or whatever, right? I can't do that. I think that's why we have a court system, so that it can make these rulings if we need to. So I don't know. That's my thought. Okay, buddy. Anything else for us?
Let me not chew up too much time. It's been blowing my mind that the hot takes that are coming out of people. It's like you can tell they just straight up haven't read any of this because it's all in there.
It's ideal. Okay, so it's not only that, but this is an ideology, right? And they are ideological zealots. So regardless of the facts of the matter, they're going to paint a narrative to help their ideology out, and their ideology includes, right? And I think this is a good thing generally. Protect unions, protect worker rights. I'm for that. Unions, good. Worker rights, good in general, right? But because they feel that this is a good, worker rights need to be protected, they add in a clause that I would not add in. At all costs. Regardless of the truth of the circumstances, regardless of the truth on the ground of the matter, at all costs, worker rights need to be protected. And I don't think that's true. I think if workers behave badly, behave poorly, I think companies do have some rights as well. I think companies do have a right to have their employees be good stewards over the equipment or material that the company entrusts them to, right? Now, this doesn't give the company the right to force them to work, but as the court carves out, right, spoilage and those things, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about willful, proactive steps taken knowingly, leading to property destruction. That's all. Okay, cool. Cool. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
To the void.
To the void.
To the
Oh,
void
that's
with
your
him,
thing.
gang. To the void with him, gang. No, what a great guy. Like, I'm glad he had those. Page 9 and 10. I'll have to write that down so I can, when I'm wrangling these diagnosably dumb people on Twitter, they're like, well, what about the possibility of this and that? What about spoilage and things like? Well, no, that's carved out. That's handled. That's settled. You know, I mean, I guess you could believe that they are all simply bad actors in this system, and that regardless of what carve outs you do, any sort of carve out is going to lead to the erosion of this institution or the erosion of unions whatsoever. You could believe that. I just think that's silly. I think that again, companies should have some protections, not maybe as much as they do currently, but there should be some. Anyway.
Did you know that Paladin is not in Diablo 4? I'm being told.
I know. That's that. I was
Gotcha.
complaining about that. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sad that they don't have Paladin. You asked me what class I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, probably Barbarian because I don't think they have Paladins yet. So I'm probably going to be Barbarian. Probably what's going to
Yeah. Do you think they should add the Paladins?
Yes, absolutely. I want them to cater to me. Me. They should design these games with me in mind. I don't know why they don't. I don't understand it. Like, it's silly.
Too many times do gamers say that unironically, though. You should play the game the way I want to.
Crawl the
That's my
Wall.
big
Do you
contention
know-
with gamers.
Do you
okay?
guys know much about the miners' strikes of 80s in the UK? So first of all, if it's about the UK, I don't know much about it. I'm American, so I don't anything outside the borders doesn't exist to me unless it's in the news, right? So I'm not sure about UK stuff. So apologies.
I went to uni up around the area where up around the area where the strikes were. I only got like secondhand. It's kind of a big part of their national identity, like the coal mining up north.
Plant that coal deep.
But yeah, that was like a huge thing. There was like violence, and people were very people were getting screwed. Billy Elliot's all about it. There's an undercurrent of that, and it caused problems for like families, and yeah, it was a grim time.
Oh, I'll have to.
I don't know
look
much
into it
else.
Maybe, right? If that ever comes it. I know we had our own union busting thing in the 80s with Reagan, where Reagan fired all the strikers for air traffic controllers went on strike. I think it was late 80s, could be early 80s. But in the 80s, the air traffic controllers went on strike, and Reagan just simply fired them all and said, "No, you are a essential employee. You cannot go on strike." Much like the military is not allowed to go on strike, right? Probably for very good reason. Now, whether or not you think that air traffic controllers being able to strike should be a good thing or a bad thing, this absolutely did lead to a lot of union busting. So the slope wasn't, it wasn't a slippery slope. The slope was actually slippery in this case. But in this instance, again, with the carve-outs mentioned, in pages 9 and 10 of the concurrent opinion, or the majority opinion, it's pretty clear that it doesn't apply to these spoilages and things like that. Let's bring on the next guest. Oh, thank you. $2. 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔. Paladin will be DLC for $30 guaranteed. Probably. DLC, gang. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I really do. Oh, don't get me started on DLC and price structures for modern gaming. Microtransactions.
DLC hype.
I don't know about it. Like I see why they do it, but I don't like it just because I don't generally engage in my purchases in that way. But I know a lot of people do. And gang, if you want to give me money, right? Now's the time. Let's bring on the next guest. Hello.
Prussian.
You're alive.
Let me unmute myself and let me.
Yeah, you got a camera for us?
Let me.
I should have asked the last guy if he had a
camera. Give me a sec.
Well,
Oh
there he
no, he's
goes.
gone.
It wasn't me this time, gang. It wasn't me.
I don't know why that's not working.
Sometimes Discord
we
does
go.
this, right? You gotta try a couple times.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Hello.
So, not to actually, because I was wanting to come in and discuss Diablo 4, but modern gaming in general is we're at it again. Blizzard just fucked us over with Overwatch 2, and now you guys early access, buying it right out of the box again, pre-ordering again. Nobody's remembering the immortal words of our good dear friend, rest in peace, 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙. No pre-orders. They like maybe the game is gonna be good. I hope the game's gonna be good. But why would we trust Blizzard once they screwed us over with Overwatch, with Warcraft, with everything? Why are we pre-ordering again? Like gamers are supposed to be the sophisticated people. We're on the internet. We follow the news, and time again, we keep buying the same thing. And like, oh, Blizzard, shucks, you got us again.
All right,
So
mate.
like,
You forgot to mention the Blizzard token in WoW Classic recently. That
oh,
stopped me playing. That was terrible.
like it's Bobby's world. We're all in it, but like we're the ones who like keep his yachts afloat. We're the ones who pave his way into he's doing what he's doing because we positively reinforce his actions. And microtransactions, we tolerate it, we buy it to the tunes of billions and billions. That's why it's happening. So that's I kind of wanted to discuss is like, are we like creating? Are we? It's sort of like we are devaluing our dollar with every bad game that doesn't work that we buy. Like Gollum just released, absolutely doesn't work. Jedi Survivor released in a state that's unacceptable. Like if you bought an actual item that's in such a poor state, even the game is awesome, but it just didn't work. And once again and again and again, we keep buying the same
So,
non-working
yeah,
product.
I get what you're saying. I don't disagree with the sentiment here, but there are protections for the consumer in this case. So a lot of times I'll buy something hoping it will be good. I load it up, it either does not work or it is just not what I wanted, right? It was billed to me. I was sold a false bill of goods, right? I refund it. Full refund. Like I have taken no hit. I don't know Blizzard's refund policy, but I know Steam's refund policy, and I've never had a problem with it. If a game does not live up to my expectations, I simply return it. And this costs them money, right? So I get I do get what you're saying. I just think you're ignoring some of the ways we have to combat this that don't involve not purchasing it. Now I know, unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is they'll buy this game, right? They'll play it for 20 to 40 hours and then say this sucks and try to return it. But yo, bro, you just played 20 to 40 hours worth of a game. What are you doing? Right? Like I know like 30 minutes to an hour in whether or not I'm going to like something.
Yeah, you should, but the reality is that like instead of that, like, oh, I didn't like it, let's refund immediately. Most people will do what you just mentioned, and then like, oh, my Arkham Knight PC port didn't work. 10 hours in, I realized that like it's not gonna get any better. And the reality is that the next game is gonna get released, and well, they why would they put in the effort if it's never been punished? And that's just in the state of like, is the game working? But then we can talk about like how they actively carve out pieces of the game or tune the gameplay to ensure that you keep spending more and more money into the game itself. Like the product itself, like it loses value year by year by year to ensure that like you purchase that value back with additional funds. Like instead of the good old $60 game, you have to buy the base game, then a bunch of add-ons and DLCs to get what you used to get. Sure, the graphics got better, but is it like they get that much better that instead of spending $60 for that experience, you spend hundreds of dollars for that experience? I'm not
curious.
sure.
I'm curious what Fungus thinks, but before Fungus goes, Skill Tree Gaming for $5 says Cold Strikes here in the U.S. is where the term redneck comes from. They'd wear red bandanas. I'm gonna switch into Diablo 4 mode. Have a good stream all. Enjoy Diablo 4. I'll see you in hell soon, soldier. Okay, all right. I'll see you in hell. I get to tell people that now, and it not be super insulting. It'll be fun. But yeah, no. After this stream, I'm absolutely gonna load it up myself. So I'll see you soon. Fungus, go ahead with your thoughts before I give more.
I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, all right? But I think one game that's done the whole, it's not necessarily microtransactions, the whole paid DLC thing really well. I think Paradox generally does a pretty good job with it. The whole idea they have the custodians, they keep the game kind of running, and then there's like an extra little financial incentive with the paid DLC. A lot of people have a dissenting opinion to this, but I think I'm not even sure if they need it, but the paid DLC for Stellaris, I'm always happy to fork out a little bit more because I really like Stellaris. To get the new features.
Like I said, I think DLC you can do it in a predatory manner, and you can do it ethically. And I think Paradox generally does it fine. I think that where I would where I would lay most of my issues with modern day gaming on is gacha games. Are you familiar?
My friend is obsessed with them, dude.
Are you familiar, sir, with what a gacha game is?
So probably not with the term itself, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Legends is a gacha game, right? Most mobile games are gacha games, and the price structuring on them absolutely is predatory in nature. The design of them absolutely is predatory in nature. These companies know, right? They know that they get 80% of their profits from 20% of their customers, and they target almost everything to the whale hunting. They go whale hunting is what it's called. Looking for those whales who will spend their whole ass paycheck on loot and in the game and these chances. There's the checks for age verification are insufficient. And I know personally of someone who lost their family because they had a 100,000-year job. They went broke. They lost their house. They weren't able to afford the basics, and so their wife left them, and took the kids. And I don't blame her for doing so, right? I don't blame her for doing so. He was spending their entire paycheck on these gacha games, right? That is unacceptable. I don't know the fix to this, right? But yeah, absolutely do not engage in that kind of thing, right? Like I think it's just horrific.
Yeah, no, I mean there are games that are just like straight up trying to trick your gambling, whatever is triggered by the gambling side of things. But those are obvious, and everyone can anyone with any common sense can realize that those are awful. But I'm also quite pissed off at like even AAA games that like specific what comes to mind immediately is Shadow of Mordor and then Shadow War, where Shadow of Mordor was a great single player experience. I loved it. And then in Shadow War you can see that specific game cycles that are not fun are being like inserted into it so that there is some way to force monetization. And everyone's gonna pretend that it's still a perfectly valuable game.
I didn't feel it was forced though, as a problem. Like, because I played both those games, I thought they were fun. Shadows of War and Shadows of Mordor, both. I didn't ever feel pressured by Shadows of War to buy anything. In fact, I didn't know you could for a long time, right?
Yeah, are you talking about they're trying to put in like references to other things or what?
It's sort of like it enters you into the loop of like sieging and unsieging fortresses and like getting like some particular Uruk-hai followers that would be better, and you can feel like this would be a lot more fun and easy if you could just want those legendary Uruk-hais or like more unique Uruk-hais, and it's just. It doesn't need to be in there, and it like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little overly cynical in that regard. But like it, like to me, that aftertaste that like some developer was like, okay, so how do we insert this so that purchase like artificially you lack some sort of value, and by buying it, you have a more fulfilling experience. Like,
wait, can you buy legendary Uruk-hai in
Yeah,
Steam
you
game
can.
Shadow of War.
Yeah, you can buy. You can basically buy boxes that, and then you get
That's
lead phone.
nuts.
Yeah.
I'm not to
Yeah.
that part of the game yet, dude. I finished Shadow of Mordor. I loved that game. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Yeah, dude, that sucks.
Yeah. No, and that was
Card
really
games
what.
are another example of kind of like edge cases. I think booster packs are great. I played Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh all throughout my life. Sorry, I didn't mean to like derail the topic, but it's just card games are one of those edge cases that people were like, is it gambling? Is it not? Is it, kids are coming. That led to kind of like is draft moral? If anyone knows Magic the Gathering players play draft, people are like, is draft immoral because it's like you get three packs and kids can play? I don't know.
Yeah, no, the gambling side of it, but then just because gambling, I feel like everyone's
$5, just
discussed
real
it to
quick.
know.
$5 from 𝕵𝖎𝖙 to say my wife left me because I spent my paycheck on Wick super chats. But think of the value. Think of the value. Okay, right? Think of what you're getting in return. You're getting my wonderful space. And my wonderful face, my wonderful space, and my wonderful face. You're getting them both, and you are getting my love. You can, dear viewer, buy my love through gift subs, through bits, and through super chats, and I will love you until the money runs out. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
No, it's just to me the main thing is because I remember the days of watching Angry Joe, and he did a review of Dragon Age Origins, and then he was like, Awakening. I don't know. It's a $40 DLC. It's only 14 hours of gameplay, and to me, like I just maybe it's like sentimental, but like harking back to those days for $40, I could get like 14 hours of premium gameplay, good story, new characters, everything. And now for $40, I can buy like 3 skins. One of them is blue, green, and red, and it just like that's the change. It's like I curse the people who bought the horse DLC in Oblivion because you guys ruined it.
You know what? You know what makes me even more upset and sad about games? It's not the pay structure. It's the dumbing down. When World of Warcraft transitioned from the tree of the skill tree to the
Talent tree.
horrendous thing it had where it had the talent tree, sorry, and the horrendous thing it had afterwards, they brought the skill tree back like just recently, but this idea of just the dumbing down of games is a real problem. Like, I still have those crunchy games, I still have access to them, but there are fewer and far between because people want something that they can just pick up and play immediately. It's not my style, so I don't like it. Prussian, anything else before we send you off?
No, that'd be all. Thanks for
Okay.
having me on, and have a wonderful evening.
Have a wonderful time in the void, because that's
the
where you're going, to
void.
the void, gang. Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Wick? Is draft legal? Is draft
Sure. I think
play ethical?
I think it's fine, right? To an extent. Look, even gacha games are fine to an extent. If this was just adults and if they had protections in place for people who are preyed upon, I'd have much less problems with it. I don't think, like, for example, I think alcohol is bad. I think alcohol is harmful. Alcohol hurts people. Alcohol ruins lives. But I'm not going to ban the sale of alcohol, right? That's not the way we combat this.
One thing that we sorry, go on.
No, please interrupt.
One thing that we recently did in Ireland was we put a minimum price on different alcoholic beverages depending on the content of alcohol in them. I think that actually I don't think it was even, I think it was actually depending on volume, which is like crazy. I actually don't think, I think that would put people on the harder stuff, which made it that like cider and beer went up to like €6 instead of like €2. You could buy like a big 2-liter bottle of cider for maybe, I don't know, €2 in some places. And then like it went up to like €6 or something. I think that's going to put people on like harder shit. I don't think that's going to bring people down. But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know the
But-
correct answer here.
But
I
it's
know,
just alcohol
Yeah.
regulating it can be tricky.
it can, and it's hard. Well, regulations in general can be tricky. If you can over-regulate or you can under-regulate, and I think both can be harmful. In some cases, regulation isn't necessary at all. In some, you absolutely need something, right? Like with pornography, I think we absolutely need more regulation towards that. I think that people are being preyed upon in the industry. And while there is such a thing as ethical pornography, I think most pornography is not. I think, I think a lot of the models are predatory. OnlyFans is, ironically, one of the least predatory models for pornography out there right now. So should there be some regulation in that industry? I absolutely think so. Sorry, viewers, if that's your thing, but just my opinion. Let's bring on the next guest.
Admiral's been waiting for so long.
Yeah, we're getting him.
Hey, whoa, whoa! I wasn't
Admiral.
saying it was bad that you made them wait. Okay, build
Admiral.
suspense.
Okay.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, can we see you?
You're a little bit quiet, but
I just maxed him.
Can you
Max
hear
it.
me? Test.
What you got for us? I love the beanie.
You guys hear me? No?
Yes.
yes.
€5 from Prussian Menace to say love is cheap.
Can't I hear you?
Yes, it is. It's cheap.
You can't
and
hear
get
us?
what you pay for, right? The more money you give me, the more love I give you. €5, you get €5 worth of love. That's all I'm saying. Okay, go ahead, Admiral.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
You guys can't hear me?
We can
hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? I can read your lips. I can't hear you guys though.
Oh.
Shit.
Uh-oh.
This sucks.
Well, for now then.
Input try changing your
It's
your
okay.
output
You can
device.
pull Factoid in. I'll
Yeah,
try it
we'll
later.
switch it out for now. Switch it out for now. You can come back. Hello.
Hey, friends.
Hello, lactoid.
How y'all doing?
Good.
Very
Do we
good,
get to
thank
see you
you.
today or not?
What'd you say, Wick?
We get to see you today or not?
Not today, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
You know what? It's okay. You'll make it up to me somehow.
Okay.
So yeah, you read this court case, buddy?
I did. So we got a couple things going on here. The first thing, well let's give a little bit of context for the audience here. So we had a bunch of Supreme Court case opinions come out today, and one came out, and it's got lefty Twitter pretty angry. All right. Now, this is, and specifically Vaush. I want to make this very clear. He is very angry about this. And the first thing that's interesting to point out is the decision is 8-1. So 8 of the justices, including like the liberals, except for Jackson, all agreed on this one case. Now, let me set the stage for you, okay? You've got a concrete company that has concrete, and
and to be clear, you are an actual practicing lawyer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm an actual practicing attorney. Okay. So you got this company, and it's having some issues negotiating with the Teamsters. Okay. There's a few disagreements they have, and they're trying to negotiate, and you know they're in the midst of this, right? So the workers all show up, pretending like they're going to work. Okay. And they mix a bunch of concrete in the trucks. And then once the concrete is mixed in the trucks, they walk off. Okay? They intentionally showed up to make it seem like they were going to work. They mixed the concrete, and then they left, knowing that the concrete would spoil and potentially destroy the trucks. And they were arguing, well, you shouldn't be able to sue us, because this should be under the NLRB, not tort law. But the Supreme Court said no. When you try to destroy somebody's property, this is not a protected striking activity. When you intentionally try to destroy property, it's not okay. All right? You can't do that. You can't come to work, mix a bunch of concrete, and destroy property, destroy the trucks, with the intention of doing so. And 8-1, this was decided, right? 8-1. But yeah, the lefties are pretty pissed. Wanted to hear your guys' thoughts. I want to know if you're just as astonished as I am that people think this is a crazy opinion.
Yes, I was shocked. I won't lie. I was like, wow, he must not have read it, right? That was my initial thought. My initial thought was like, oh, he just saw the headline, he didn't read the opinion, and he just made a tweet. He probably thought they were being sued because of they went on strike, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I initially thought. Turns out right? At least reading a little more. A lot of people have allegedly, at least they claim, to have read the case, have read the opinion, and still think that this was some sort of attack on unions, that this was some sort of like weird kind of like thin end of the wedge that's going to be used to union bust. When again, in the opinion, it makes a lot of carve-outs, right? In pages 9 and 10, as one of our previous callers was saying, in pages 9 and 10, it references in the majority assenting opinion, right? Several cases of, for example, at a cheese factory and a dairy company, and these things with spoilage involved. And it specifically says in the opinion, this is not in reference to spoilage. Spoilage doesn't count for this decision, right? We're not talking about that here, right? Again, the idea that workers can do literally anything and everything to a person's property or their company's property if they are on strike is wild to me. It is wild to me that they would think that. Like, why would anyone think that? And you're welcome, Lizard Wizard. Thanks for being
No, absolutely. No, this is the crazy part about this, right? I mean, again, you come to work acting as though you're going to do the job that day, right? If they had decided to go on strike prior, this wouldn't be the case. This wouldn't be a case. But what they went to work with the intention of destroying the concrete and destroying these trucks. Why would you mix the concrete and then walk off the job? Why wait until that point?
It was worse.
That was the corporate argument.
It was the so to give grace a little to the union here. This was probably used as a coercive tactic, saying unless you see to our demands, look, we already mixed the concrete, clock's a ticking. You have however many hours it takes to set or for the truck's drums to run out and things like that before you know, you're just going to lose hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this was kind of, I mean, they didn't do it to intend to destroy, but they didn't care if they destroyed it because they were going to use the destruction of this property as a bargaining chip in this, right? That's how I read it. Like, that's my read on that. Whether that's true or not, again, I want to make clear to everyone involved, the Supreme Court is not ruling on whether or not that who is in the right here. They're ruling on whether or not this can be brought to civil trial, right? Tort under tort case, right? Tort law. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah. Tort law.
I was just kind of thinking about what, in theory, might make it like not. And this is again like I'm uneducated on it, but I was thinking about what might make it like okay. Now, do we know that they intentionally, that they intended to cause that damage at the start of the day? I was kind of thinking like, oh, what if the thing that caused them to strike happened after they did that? I'm not sure actually, but I don't know whether it did or not. I'm just
strike. I think it would be different, right? But I don't think it was. At least it's not being alleged it was. They knew that they were going on strike that day. That's what's being alleged by the company. That the union had planned this strike well in advance. They knew it was going to happen. And so, given that knowledge, they ordered their workers to go in, mix this stuff in their trucks anyway, knowing that they wouldn't have enough time to either deliver it or properly mix it or properly mitigate the damage before they went on strike. That's the alleged order of events here. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's the argument, right?
Yeah, we should probably wait till more information. Maybe.
Well,
it doesn't stop people from speculating, of course, though. Like the speculation is like is probably better here than in some of the more like social stuff.
So we have a lot of the information. I mean, I guess there's always the underlying tort case. I think is going to be interesting, right? Once that happens, now that they can pursue that. But the allegations here, and I don't know how much these are challenged, was that the union rep, the agent, signaled for the work stoppage in the middle of mixing the concrete, right? So they went there, they started mixing it, and then the union rep was up. All right, we're striking now. After that had begun, okay, that was the signal was given as right when that damage. And to be fair, Wick, you're saying, well, it's used as a bargaining chip, but that to me that would still fall under intentional, right? If you create a situation where you're putting trucks in danger, right? The concrete had to be removed, otherwise it could have destroyed the trucks, which are incredibly expensive. Destroy the trucks, and we'll cave to our demands, otherwise the damage will occur. That doesn't mean the damage is not intentional. Maybe a comparison could be like, you set bombs on the trucks and run away. Oh, well, heed to our demands, otherwise we're detonating the bombs. No, like that's still intentional destruction.
And the people from the union strike probably knew, or the people calling for the strike probably knew what was going on at the time that they called for the strike. They probably knew that the cement was being mixed.
Yes, so quite literally, when the agent signaled, hey, we're with the work stoppage, the company said, well, hold on, we need to finish these deliveries, otherwise there's going to be issues, there could be damage. And the union directed them to ignore these commands, to ignore instructions to finish those concrete deliveries so the damage wouldn't occur.
Damn, if that's true, that's pretty damning. I want to talk about this more in the sense of like the reaction to it, though, right? I want to kind of, because look, right, companies and unions trying to fuck each other has been a conversation from time immemorial, right? But this idea, right, that we have to protect workers' rights and unions at all costs, right, even when it's clear that the workers in question or the union in question has been malicious and purposely destructive, I think is just going to hurt us. It's going to make, when actual like problems and people trying to bust unions unfairly come about, people are going to be able to dismiss those claims far easier, because we've cried wolf at these it seems pretty clear to me, right, at least as the facts presented, right, it seems pretty clear to me who's in the wrong here, right? Just not even from a legal framework, but from a moral framework. As you said, you are creating a situation, right? I liken it to a surgeon, right, who begins operating on a patient, knowing that in the middle of that operation, they're going to go on strike and stop working at that patient. So they go on strike, the patient dies because they are on strike, right? And they didn't finish the operation, and the dude's literally sitting over there, cut open on the operating table, right? I don't think anyone, left, right, or center, would say that doctor shouldn't be held accountable to some extent, right? Everyone would agree, left, right, and center, that doctor or that surgeon did something wrong morally and needs to pay a price, right? But for whatever reason, because it's property, that same logic isn't applied, and I don't understand it.
Well, and we can think about a property allegory that also is equally as ridiculous, right? Let's say you had a pilot who started flying a cargo plane over the Atlantic, and then in the middle of the flight, jumped out of the plane with a parachute, destroying the cargo plane. Fully knowing this was going to happen, waiting until the plane was in the air to destroy the property.
I'm sorry. Crawl the wall. People don't just stop working halfway through when they strike. They just stay in bed. Are you being facetious? Are you trolling me right now? That's literally what they did in the case of the construction workers strike. That's literally what they did. They were in the middle of mixing cement. They stopped working mid-mix and they left. That's what happened.
The interesting thing as well about this is you have very left-wing justices like Sotomayor and Kagan that are both joining the majority here, right? I mean, I don't understand. And by the way, Jackson, the only reason it's 8-1 is because Jackson was opposing it on very technical grounds as to, does the NLRB have jurisdiction, or does the court have any jurisdiction?
Question, not a
it was a jurisdiction question. So I'm just confused as to like what basis anybody is challenging this, right? I mean, you're it's just bizarre.
So people in my chat are saying that they returned the trucks and kept the drums turning. In some cases, yes. In other cases, no. As I understand it, some of them were returned. Some of the deliveries were made, right? Some were not, right? In some cases, I think 7, right? The union workers went to their representatives and says, hey, what do you want us to do with this cement with these trucks here? Like, do you want us to finish or not? In the other cases, 9, they just walked off. They didn't ask. They didn't care, right?
The other thing is just this is a limited. I think this demonstrates a limited understanding of concrete. Just because the concrete drum is rotating, right, that can help, but that doesn't mean the concrete can't harden. In fact, in the decision, it talks about that. The removal of the concrete was a decision specifically taken to save the trucks, so you wouldn't have the destruction of the trucks.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. Like, again, this just bothers me that we just have no sympathy, right, or no sense of right or wrong when it comes to these things, right? Just as a general rule, if you destroy someone else's property maliciously, it's generally bad. It's generally something you should not do, right? But because, for whatever reason, a company, right, it's a company's property, we think that it's going to do no harm and it's okay and it's always morally permissible. I can imagine situations where it would be morally permissible, maybe not legally permissible, but more morally permissible. Like, say if you very much valued, right, your native land or your sacred ground or whatever, and an oil company was going to drive a pipeline through it or draw the resources out. I can see an argument where this is what you really believe, that there would be some justification in your mind, maybe not legally, but morally, for sabotaging that, right? I can understand that, right? But in this case, that's not what happened. That's not the context here. And I think that this is a very, very clear cut right and wrong. I don't know. What do you think, Fungus? Let's hear your thoughts.
I don't know. I think the more I hear about it, the more I want to hear. I want the nitty gritty that I will never probably get. But I do think it's just. I just think it's kind of right to don't unions also negotiate with the people and keep working during I'm just saying during really tough negotiations or during really critical ventures. And I feel
It's
like for
contextual.
construction,
Like,
the mixing of the concrete would be that.
Yeah,
I feel
it
like the right
depends, like-
option is to be like, hey,
yeah, if they had
we're gonna go on
finished that
strike.
up, if they
Yeah.
had finished up the mixing, delivered it, and then just struck, then again, no conversation would be had either, right? Like they can strike, that's fine, right? Or as Lactoid said, if they had, before they mixed, went on strike, no issue, right? Okay, that's fine, right? But there's a duty to, I think this is the principle I'm using here. There's a duty of care that an employee has when they are given responsibility over a thing, right? Whether it be property or material, right? There is a duty of care, a reasonable duty of care that they should be expected to exercise, even if they go on strike, even if they do these things, right? Like, and again, the clearest way to indicate this is when it's human life on the line, because everyone would agree with me, right? Like, if nurses in a infant ward, like, that are taking care of babies, right? They obviously, before they go on strike, make sure that those babies aren't going to die, right? And if they don't do those steps, they absolutely are responsible, right? Because this has been given into their care, right? And yes, like, well, I would sentence the nurses to prison if people died. I wouldn't sentence these people to prison for concrete, right? I wouldn't send anyone to jail for this. But the company being able to sue them, sue the union specifically, yeah, that's fine.
So, and I want to read this. This is the last paragraph of the decision. I think it really emphasizes that, right? The union's actions not only resulted in the destruction of all the concrete Glacier had prepared that day, they also posed a risk of foreseeable, aggravated, and imminent harm to Glacier's trucks. Because the union took affirmative steps to endanger Glacier's property rather than reasonable precautions to mitigate that risk, the NLRA does not arguably protect its conduct. I think that.
What page is that on? Because I'm gonna quote that shit to some diagnosably dumb people on Twitter.
So I posted the PDF in the Twitch chat. It'd be page 15 of the PDF, page 12 of the opinion.
Yeah, I have it up. I have it up on another screen, but I'll check it out at some point. Anything else you want to share with us before we let you go?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to let me rant, and I appreciate you pointing out how dumb people are being about this on Twitter.
It's an unforced error. It's an L you didn't have to eat. You could have just read the opinion before you spouted off your nonsense, gang. Okay, let that be a lesson. Now, I've done this before. I haven't read into a situation. I made a take, and I had to eat my words later. That happens to the best of us, right? But best practice, don't do that shit. Stop it. But anyway, which Republican candidate would I support for president? One that shares my values, but there are currently none that share my values. The only people who come close to sharing my values are on the Democratic ticket. Lactoid, we love you. We're going to send you a letter. To the void!
To the void.
To the void.
Shouldn't there be like legal advisors on every union board as well? Like, I feel like a legal advisor might advise against that. Just
Probably
in theory.
best practice, but I don't know. Like, I don't think it's required, right? I think...
No. But I do think that would have been smart. Yeah.
So, Toby won Kenobi. No. Again, in this decision, right, they specifically say, right, and they make carve-outs on page 9 and 10 for spoilage. And that spoilage, this doesn't apply to, right? It wasn't the fact that it's spoiled. It was the fact that, again, right, that they took proactive steps to make sure it would spoil, right? That they made sure they took... that where otherwise no spoilage would have occurred, because they took the actions they did and then struck, it absolutely spoiled. That is a problem here. That is what is at issue. But yeah, what values do I support? NYC Jewish man. Well, generally, right? I believe that people deserve human dignity, like basic dignity, basic function, right? Like I believe in UBI, universal healthcare. Things like that. I think that I value people's right to life, liberty, and property, right? I think property is a thing that we should be protected, right? But not at the expense necessarily of someone's life. Now, this is contextual, of course, right? If you have someone burning down your home, I think you have the right to stop them, even in up to lethal force. Not if it's not necessary, but if the only way you can stop them is to kill them, I think that's morally acceptable. I wouldn't do it, maybe, right? I think I would just let my home burn. But I think that keeping bad things from happening to you or your property is generally something that the legal system should support you in. Again, it's fuzzy. There are lines here. What are some of my other values? Freedom of speech is a huge one. I believe in the right for people to dissent and to have a voice, even if they're super wrong or super offensive. I think that the people shouldn't be censored for their ideas. So yeah.
Some people are saying like, oh, that's what insurance is for when people talk about the like the strike.
Assuming you have it.
Yeah, well, I mean the business, like
the biz. Oh, I thought you were talking about
like
the arson.
maybe the business or maybe the union. I don't know.
Well, I don't know
if
if they
unions
had.
have
I
insurance.
don't know if they had insurance or not. But then, I mean, like that just kicks the can down the road. Why should an insurance company be responsible for your negligence, right? I don't.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But let's bring on the next caller. Let's try Admiral Love again.
Let's go, Admiral.
Hello.
Let's try.
Go, Admiral. Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
you. Can you hear us?
Can you hear
me
us?
now?
Beautiful.
It works, yes, and I can hear you.
Okay,
it
what you got
works.
for us?
Imagine that. I want to jump into this union discourse. It's really interesting to me.
Go for it.
I wanted to ask, in what sense exactly you think there is a duty for an employee to care about the property of their employer? Because I think you threw out like an example of like nurses or something like really crucial, right? Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's so much a duty to like the hospital that employs them or whatever. It's more actually to the consumer, the recipient of whatever goods and services you're providing.
I mean, they're not as disconnected as you might think, right? The employee, right? Their reputation is based on how the goods or the property of the consumer that is in their care is treated, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking like, so I
I
think
use the infant example because it's easy and everyone will agree with it, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah. I think like in this case it's like um I just think like there's probably kind of a storied history that we're not aware of in terms of this union's relationship to this business, because these guys had to know what they were doing when they left those trucks, right? They had to know that there would be a scramble and that potentially they could cause a lot of damage, and they had to like not give a fuck, and that's why they did it, right? Like, and for things to reach that point, at that point, like I don't have any fucking sympathy for the company, right? Like I don't fucking give a shit
really?
if they like
So if
if
I
a bunch
made
of their
you,
shit gets damaged,
yeah,
you know.
sure. If I
Assuming
lunched,
that's the case, I don't
sure,
know. Maybe it
I
was
understand. No,
completely
but
malicious and negotiations were going fine and they did it for no fucking reason. But
I don't
usually
know
when you
either.
strike, it's already like you're already at a point where you're getting screwed over and negotiations aren't going well, right? It's already kind of an extreme thing to do.
So if I loaned you $5,000, if I was like, you know what, we're buddies, right? But I'm gonna loan this to you, right? And you're gonna have to pay it back. How mad would I be able, like, at what level of madness or anger would you say it would be morally okay for you not to pay me back because you're super duper mad at me?
I mean, then you'd be completely justified in me not paying you back. But I don't think that's analogous. But
Why
yeah,
not?
because who's loaning what? What are you talking
So
about? Like,
when the company, the union, right, got that cement mix, right, they did so on the company's dime. It was the company paying for it. The company was giving them a loan, right, conceptually, of however much money that cement cost. And then
yeah,
they
they're just
mixed
paying
that
for their
cement
time.
purposely to destroy it or to actually pressure the company to give in to their demands, or else the cement would be destroyed. And
But that's not what the
possibly the
employment
trucks.
relationship is. They're getting paid presumably by the hour to be there, and they're getting paid while they're doing the job that they're paid to do. Right?
Yes.
They're not getting paid based on the successful mixing of the cement or whatever
But
the task
the
is. Right?
fact that they knew if they took this action, the cement would be ruined, and potentially the trucks themselves would be at very high risk of ruination, right? That again, um, it's just not something we want to normalize. I think that it's a
No,
bad thing if union workers can simply say, okay, we're on strike, therefore it's okay to destroy this property. And let's be clear, that's what it was, destruction of property. I just don't think I don't think that's something we want to normalize. I don't think it's okay. I think a company
I think
should
it's
be able
already
to.
it's already not a normal situation, right? Like already the employee, first of all, fundamentally the employer relationship is adversarial at its core, right? Like that it's just like it's how it is, right? Like the employee is trying to get as much money out of the employer, and the employer is trying to get as much productivity out of the employee. They're already at their motivations are already at odds, and I think we have a work culture that imputes more responsibility on a moral level to employees to do a good job in exchange for their wage, and I don't think that's entirely fair.
I would agree with you
I
actually
think
on that.
all's fair in love and war. I think it's that
So,
kind of thing where it's
I
like this was a violent tactic. This was like a really extreme tactic, but it is a tactic that I have no moral
okay, I
problem with.
disagree with that. Again, I agree with you when you said that I think we live in a system that gives more protection to companies than it should and less protection to workers than it should. Absolutely. I agree. However, the company's right to sue someone who maliciously destroys their property is not one of those rights that is too much, right? I think the company has that or should be able to at least go to court, because again, what the Supreme Court decision did was simply allow the court case to go to court, right? It did not make a ruling on this court case. It said simply the fact that this can go to tort law. It can go to tort court, right? That's all this Supreme Court ruling did.
Yeah, to be honest, and I'm not arguing against the legal point, because I would agree with you there. I'm saying more on in a moral sense. This is like a risky tactic by the union because they can get sued over it if it is deemed to be this level of negligence.
Normally they could.
But it is a viable tactic to
overturning.
expose a business to risk based on how they treat their employees or mistreat their employees, right?
But no.
Like this company probably is really mistreating their employees. I don't know that.
I think
it would be interesting if somebody could come up with kind of more back history on what these
I don't know,
like,
but even if this company was horribly mistreating them, that does not give the employees the right to destroy their property. And people are asking like, oh no, they could already sue. No, they would have to go to NRLB, right? The National Labor, I'm not sure if I said that acronym right, but basically a National Labor Board, and they would make a potential ruling on there, right? And that was the only reason that it's 8-1 is because one of the judges involved said, oh no, it should go to that court instead of tort court, right? But no, this was a reversal. Just real quick, just to explain to chat, this was a reversal, right? This was a reversal of the norm, right? So unions, federally, can't usually be sued for these kinds of things. This is an exception that because of the facts of the matter, that the Supreme Court said, actually, no, in this case, yeah, we can see a reason for this to be taken to the tort court. And they made their arguments, and we've been over. But rephrase your argument, please.
Yeah, so what I'm really saying is that I think it's a good thing for large employers to be aware that when they have a long history of mistreating their employees or like really screwing the union over in negotiations or whatever it is, they are putting their property at risk because there's always this potential tactic of striking at an inopportune time for them, and whether or not that's going to rise to the level where legal recourse would be possible, like that's like a totally different question. It's just like a risk reward tactic, right?
So,
and like I think it's good. I think it's good for companies to know that could happen.
So again, this wasn't simply an inopportune time, right? They created the inopportune time, right? They purposely set the stage so it would be inopportune, right?
Yeah,
on a natural course of the events, had they not shown up to work, this wouldn't be an issue. None of these events would have taken place. But they knew, right. Again, allegedly, that's important, right? Because this hasn't been litigated in court. But the alleged claim from the company, right, is that they intentionally knew, right, they were going to call the strike that day. They started a process that, if not finished, would put their trucks at grave danger and ruin all the product used. And they did this with malicious intent or gross neglect. And in that case, I think it's perfectly reasonable for the company to be able to sue. I don't think to deal with this morally, I don't think it's morally right that they engage this, no matter how mad they were, no matter how bad they were treated, outside of really extreme, like the company was killing their kids or something, right?
You've mentioned the legal part, so how do you get to the moral part, though?
Yes,
that this is morally
because
unacceptable?
I don't think, again, I tried this with the analogy of giving you a loan, right? My moral, I don't think someone being super angry or someone being treated poorly gives them the right to carte blanche do anything. Now, obviously, depending on matters of scale, like if the company was executing them in the streets or killing their children or something like that, okay, right? Then obviously avenues and paths open up, right, that weren't before. But unless it reached something like that, right, unless it reached some sort of level like that, I don't think that employees, no matter how bad they're treated, right, have the moral ability, right, or the ability to destroy the company's property maliciously and still be moral. I just don't think it's true. Right?
Maliciously, maybe not. And I know I'm completely changing it here, but I'm kind of like, employee safety is really important. Just to throw that out there. If there was something that was threatening employee safety, that might be like one example. Maybe not maliciously.
It
depends
on
on
the extremity, right? It depends on the extremity, and the level of negligence by the company. Maybe, but again, I don't know, and I'm hard pressed to Why would I assume that? $5 from Ferngully to say, what were the workers striking about? I haven't heard that yet. So as I read it, it was kind of like the rate of exchange, right? Like, so the workers weren't getting paid the amount they wanted to pick up the product and mix the product. I think it was something like that. Let me actually, you know what? I have the article up. Let me get you the true facts here.
I was just searching it through there, yeah.
Okay.
Just to find a...
Give me a second. The true facts.
Yeah, I just think like the employees' wages and their benefits,
yes, here we go.
their
Workers
interests,
who drive
they
cement
have a dollar
mixers.
value just like the trucks do. So it's just like,
Yeah, sure. Workers who drive cement mixers grew frustrated with the price of bargaining with their employer. So they were in bargaining negotiations, right? I don't know what it was for exactly, right? But in order to pressure them to give in to their bargaining, to increase their bargaining power, that's why they went on strike.
yeah, it's just dollars for dollars. It's already an adversarial relationship, and it's just an escalation of that relationship where you're putting dollars at risk. I don't think it's immoral on either side.
What is the price
That is
of
what
wage
capitalism is. That's
negotiations?
how it works.
Is that just like you're in wage negotiations for X amount of hours and you can't work those, or I don't
I'm not
understand
to the
what that
specifics. I won't speak on
what
that.
the phrase means.
But even conceptually, right? We can see that there is a substantive difference, right, between me, you asking for, hey, I want $10, and me saying no, right, and then you saying, hey, can you loan me $10? I loan you that money, and then you rip it up and never pay me back. There's a substantive difference. It's not just dollars for dollars, right? There's a substantive difference in what actions were taken, right? I think that, yeah, to equate those, it's reductive and just not okay.
You mentioned like strike behaviors that aren't okay to normalize. I think one thing that is really good to normalize is a sort of a coherent, I don't know if there was or wasn't this, but like a coherent communication and procedures, for example, like what you would do with company property during the strike. I feel like there's maybe even an ideal template out there for like things that you could hand out to the employees, to the workers, so that you could hold someone accountable for damage to property, so that there's like an explicit kind of thing. But then again, like regulating unions with some sort of like form would probably be
from
bad.
YouTube chat. Ferngully says, I work as a construction manager. Unless they weren't being paid at all, unions have a set contract with set wages that gets renegotiated every contract. I'm in the construction management side of the business, and this sounds dumb, and property destruction is taking it up a notch. Usually it's just a stand down outside of the property line. So yes, this wasn't just a stand down outside of the property line, refusal to work, none of that. This was malicious destruction, at least allegedly, right? This was a malicious destruction of the property. So it's like walking out and lighting a fire on your way out, throwing a Molotov cocktail through the building on your way out, right? Like it's a step that you don't need to take, right?
Well, we don't know that. Like, right? We don't know all the ins and outs of this relationship.
The Supreme Court isn't ruling on that. All the Supreme Court is allowing for is them to take it to court, right? And not through the NLRB, but to take it to actual civil court. That's all that the Supreme Court allows, right?
Right.
So they could lose this case in court. So the company could bring this case forward. The facts aren't on their side. They're unable to prove their case. Nothing happens to the union, right? In fact, the union will probably get paid back any legal fees that they accrue, right? That's usually what happens when these kind of frivolous lawsuits come out, right? Not always, but pretty much, right? Yeah, I don't see it morally at all as ethical. I don't know. Anything else for us, Admiral?
No, that's it.
Admiral, we love you. You are the Admiral of Love, but I am the Supreme Admiral of Love. And with that, to the void.
To the void. The Supreme Admiral of Love, depending on how much money you get.
Well, that's true as well. Okay, that's true as well. You can buy my love, right? And you can up my rank, depending on how much money, right?
Yeah.
Let us bring in the next guest. Hello.
Well, if it isn't the top of Wick's pyramid of love, 𝕵𝖎𝖎.
Yeah, he's my. We got my oiler here. What's up, 𝕵𝖎𝖎? Yo, you're muted.
He's getting ready. He's cooking.
How you doing, guys?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm really tired from work, so I may not be the most coherent. First of all, Lord Fungus, how far are you on your bingo card?
My bingo card. Well, I haven't been ticking off the bingo card. I've made it available for people. Which, by the way, join Wick server. Fill out the bingo card. Get a bingo master role.
Had I known, I could have helped out fill some of them, but I don't know how far we are. So I have a list of 3 topics, and maybe we can either go all of them one by one, or maybe we can just
see
have
how long
one.
they take, right?
right.
Let's hear what you got. Give them to me rapid
right.
fire, and how about this? You give them to me rapid fire, and I'll pick the one I find interesting. Cool.
Okay, Roe v. Wade. Why don't we elect Supreme Court judges, or Trump versus DeSantis?
I'm cool with any of those. What do you think, Fungus?
Lord Fungus.
Oh, a lot of these are very American, but I guess they're not too American for me to have an opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not
I also don't care. Sorry. Don't mind. Sorry, don't mind. Don't care. We need to cut down on that. Don't care is kind of mean way of saying I don't mind.
Right.
No, it's fine.
Okay, I think.
Let's do which one interests you the most? There.
Yeah, I think the Roe v. Wade topic I had in mind probably has the potential to encompass or get into broader political things. So I recently saw that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is, if I'm not wrong, heralded as one of the most liberal judges and one of the most popular liberal Supreme Court judges.
Oh, she was quite popular. Yes.
Yep, was in some instances against the ruling of Roe v. Wade, and if I'm not mistaken, the broad reasoning for that was that it set back the discussion on abortion. In the long term, it was holding that discussion back.
One of the dirty secrets, right, of Democrats, is that we've all known since the 70s, right, that Roe v. Wade was weak law. It was not even right, directly dealing with abortion. It simply dealt with kind of like a side bit, right, that was used in order to uphold abortion laws in the United States. It was kind of a workaround that the courts used, but it was weak law. It was not very good precedent, and we've known this for decades, which is why many in the Democratic Party are very upset that the Democrats didn't look to make this more of a strengthened, protected thing in the Constitution or in federal law in general, right? This is one of the problems many Democrats have with the senators and representatives that sat for the last 50 years. Now, there are issues with that. I wouldn't be too mad at them because, again, we always tiptoed around this because we knew if it was challenged, it was going to be a problem. Now, for whatever, for a variety of reasons, the court system favored the Democrats for a long, long time, and only through the tireless work of conservatives to overturn that, right, were they able to get the necessary pieces in place to set the groundwork for Roe v. Wade to even be overturned in the first place. This is a process that took decades, right? It took a long, long time. So, yes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a judge and was able to recognize the weakness of it, even though, right, conceptually, she supported what it was upholding, and I think I support what it was upholding: the right for a woman to choose, the right for a woman to choose what happens to her body, and to be able to have access, if she desires it, to abortion. That's a safe, legal, and rare, right? I think that's my kind of go back here, right? I like that. Now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, unfortunately. And then we had the Trump appointees, things like that. It was a big thing. A lot of pieces here. Sorry, but yeah. So, what are your thoughts? I'm talking a lot here, but go on.
Yeah, my thoughts. I understand that why it came about. My question is, do you think that Roe v. Wade decision if it wasn't, let's say you were the Supreme Court judge at the time with the deciding vote, would you consider, okay, I should not protect abortions because I'd rather have something like this come in organically within the sort of public,
Well, the problem
general
with that,
public's image?
the problem with that, and I think we've seen this in some of the more red states, right, is it's causing real harm right now, like to overturn this, right? So there is immediate and you know, terrible harm being done to women who are forced to carry, 11-year-old who's forced to carry, like, you know, having been raped, forced to carry a child to term. That's horrific, right? And in cases of severe, right, threats to health, being forced to, having your options limited in that case is horrific, right? Now, luckily, these aren't like all over, but they're problems. And so when you don't support Roe v. Wade, this is one of the prices you pay. You get these short-term problems. Now, hopefully, right? Hopefully, we can craft some federal legislation that's more robust and strong. But I would have liked to do that while Roe v. Wade was still protecting us, rather than after it was gone. That would have been the ideal. You craft this protection before it is overturned. But yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Oh, have fun.
Take care. So that just kind of brings me to like a general discussion. When is it, like, obviously in this case it would be considered a necessary intervention and necessary pressure on society to protect the rights, or what most people would conceive as protecting the rights of.
That's a good question,
women.
right? I think that doctors should break the law in this case. I think that doctors have a moral duty to break the law in these cases, to save the lives of their patients if they need to, and to protect the rights of their patients. Civil disobedience in that case, right? Do I think you have the right to go firebomb a courthouse? No, not at all. Do I think you have the right to go punch a judge in the nose, right? One of the Supreme Court justices? No, absolutely not. Right? But I do think that you know, you have a moral right to disobey in certain cases, right? And I think that's fine, and I think you should. And you know what? If they come to arrest you, take your arrest, take it on the chin, let them know, right? That's one of the most powerful tools a protester has in his toolbox, or her toolbox, I should say, is to bear the consequences of this outrageous law, to bear the consequences so that people can see what happens due to this inhumane, unjust law, right? I think that is, we have lost sight of that, right? When we dodge these things, when we don't get arrested, when we don't make this public and stuff, and we try to kind of game the system a little bit. But I think that civil disobedience is a powerful tool in the toolbox if it's used correctly. And I think we just don't use it correctly in a lot of cases.
So my question would be, like, okay, when it comes to abortion, there's a question of morality, and it's a bit more fluid in terms of like opinion. Why it's quite based like on opinion, whereas something, let's say, like which is something which has a much stronger base in science, like let's say creationism versus evolution. Why don't we use intervention like this, like Roe v. Wade, to enshrine that, hey, there's not just like an I'm pretty sure like a majority of people would support evolution in science classrooms, but
Sure,
also
I
there's
mean,
the
sometimes we
scientific
do.
foundation is present.
But sometimes we do enshrine these things in law, but then they're overturned later because our society changes in its values. And I think that's fine. I think that there's nothing immoral or moral, right? If you really, really believe, right, that evolution is a thing, is false and fake, to lobby for evolution to be taken out of schools. I don't think that's an immoral thing. Yes, it does harm to people's education, but it's not the same type of harm that restricting access to healthcare has for people. It's different scales, different styles, different impacts. And again, this is a problem I have with conflating everything to violence. Oh, this is violence. This is violence. This tweet is violence. This law is violence. This system is violent. There's violence
This tweet is
everywhere,
violence.
right? it makes it okay to respond to everything, literally everything, with violence, and that is obviously just not the case. So we have to be very clear, and we have to be very distinct, and we have to be very granular, and we have to say, this is harm, this is less harm, this is more harm, and this is actual violence and an assault and an attack. We have to make these distinctions very crystal clear, or else it leads to a race to the bottom in a lot of cases. With they're attacking me, I am under attack, and therefore I have the right to raise up arms against my oppressors. This is a justification that a lot of the true believers on the super radical extreme right have used for plotting to kidnap a governor, for example, right? They think there's a good guys, and they make these kind of like, we are under attack, and so we must defend our rights type of deal, right? Again, we have to make a distinction between what is under attack, what is okay to use, what is okay to, how it's okay to respond. Even if you feel you are being harmed, it doesn't give you carte blanche to just do anything to the person you feel is harming you. That's my thoughts. What are your thoughts here?
With the whole expansion of the word into, or like expanding the definition of violence or whatever, I think if you want to see a good world, or especially during like advocacy or anything like that, it's really bad to expand definitions of inflammatory words. I just think that that's really bad. I think it creates the world that advocates generally don't want to see, depending on the type of advocate they are. But I think it's bad, like really bad to like conflate non-violent things with violent things and call it violence. But it's more complicated. Like the debate's more complicated than just like violence is physical.
Is it?
Right. It depends on if you're talking morally or legally, right? Like violence.
Harm could be emotional, physical, property. Harm. We have a perfectly acceptable word for this. Harm. It covers a lot, right? If we want to be specific with our types of harm, we use words like violence, which is specifically physical harm.
Some people would consider the potential for harm. They don't equate the potential for harm with harm. Like, for example, if an engineer left a screw on a bridge loose for whatever reason, and like that, I would classify that as harmful, even though the bridge hasn't collapsed yet.
Well,
whereas
I think it's
some people would
harmful. The consequences are potentially harmful, let's say, and because we do deal with potentiality, right? I think it's perfectly acceptable if this person did it through gross neglect or through intentionality, to hold them at least somewhat responsible. Now, how you hold that responsible, what should be the punishment for leaving a screw loose on a bridge and then the bridge collapses, right? What should be your level of liability? It depends a lot on the context, right? Did you knowingly do it, right? Was it something you did knowing the bridge was going to collapse? Was it just laziness and negligence, right? These things have different responses, or should have different responses, right? Even though the harm would be the same in either case, we can recognize that intent actually does matter when it comes to dealing out punishment. But when it comes to actually measuring the harm, I don't think intent matters in that case. Like, regardless of whether you did it through negligence or maliciousness, that bridge collapsed and harm was done. Now, your level of culpability will depend on a variety of factors, but the harm remains the same, right?
Which is really interesting, right? Like, I'm a person of science, and what you've described is very much the engineering aspect of science. Like, there have been lots of disasters in the past, and each of them have been thoroughly studied to find what the root cause of all of these problems was, and then we've come up with a system of ethics and risk assessment and things like that, and systems to follow. But rolling it back into Roe v. Wade, unless you someone else has anything to say on this line. So I guess my last question on that would be, looks like the Supreme Court ultimately holds a lot of power, and it's looking more and more like it holds more power than like the president. Should we have a system where we elect
more power? I don't know. It's a different
but it
kind
can
of power. It
overrule
can
the president.
overrule the president, yes.
Right.
but the
I know there's
president-
checks and balances in place.
Yeah, there are
Yeah.
ways for the executive branch to put pressures and things like that, limited
Mhm.
by design, right? On the
Yep.
judicial system, right? I mean, it's not a one-for-one thing, obviously. I don't know if I'd say they have more power, but they are a check on the executive, on the other branches, right? So I guess
Right.
technically, I'll just cede it, right? I guess technically they do have a little more of a final say, right?
Mhm.
But that's by design.
Should there be a push for like a 10th Supreme Court judge or like an 10 and 11 Supreme Court judge that are
expanding the
elected by
Supreme Court.
that are elected by the public?
Oh, specifically elected by the public. So not only expanding the Supreme Court, but saying this seat,
Or maybe some portion of the current Supreme Court, let's
sure.
say, like
or
a section.
or portioning out a X number of justices that are elected directly rather than appointed representatively.
Yeah.
The
I know it's like
problem
a pretty
here.
lot of things to consider. But
Yeah, there is a lot to consider here because democracy good, right? We all like democracy. Democracy good. Why shouldn't we not have a direct say in someone with this level of power in the government, right? Because I think in this case, especially in a Supreme Court setting, it does have to do with a very narrow, very specific science or art, law. It's law, right? So, I mean, I guess if you required certain standards, maybe. But my fear is, and what the immediate thought that comes to mind and why this would be a bad idea. Imagine Trump being elected to be a Supreme Court justice. Imagine Trump being selected to be a Supreme Court justice. No, you want Supreme Court justices who at least have the best. Like, it would be like having your family vote on who to give surgery to you. Yes, you kind of do, right? Like, you have the ability to patronize different things.
In your scenario, I would have let you complete it, but like, won't someone like Trump being put in check by the other Supreme Court justices?
Maybe. Oh, principals, thank you for the gift subs. How many did you give me? 7 gift subs? Yo, a true Wick ally, a Wicker, if you will. Thank you. Thank you for the 7 gift subs. Gang, more money to my bank account to help me pay for Diablo 4. Please, it was expensive. Help me pay for my bad decisions monetarily. I want to get a Switch so I can play these Link games, these Zelda games everyone's speaking about. But you gotta give me more money to that. Like in super chats, in gift subs, in bits. That's always great. But thank you. But yeah, I can see an argument both ways for this, right? I can see an argument where, no, elected democracy, right? Direct elected representatives to the Supreme Court, why not? But at the same time, I don't know. I think there should be, if we do it that way, I think there should be at least requirements that you have served as a judge for X number of years, that you have
very clean track record.
Yeah. There should be some standard, because we don't want to just let any Joe Schmo in who happens to be good at being elected but bad at law, right?
Does the Supreme Court work largely the same in Ireland?
Oh my god. I have no idea about the court system in Ireland, and I should have. But you know what? I'm a good boy. I don't need to. Yeah. Usually it's just I think it works the same way, as in like you can elevate cases, whatever. But I actually don't know what our
No, just real quick. Someone in chat, Conservatory's dad. Excellent point. This is rare that you'll hear me say this, but actually excellent point, right? One of the problems with directly electing Supreme Court justices, right, is that it makes them subject to political pressures in a way that appointments do not, right? Now, there's a degree of separation. Now, obviously, you could say they're still subject a little bit to this, but we want to mitigate it as much as possible. It's why I'm not for term limits, right, for Supreme Court justices, because if you serve for 10 years, then you get off, right? Companies can say, hey, rule this way on what we want, and then when you're done being a Supreme Court justice, you get a you get a cush little job in our company, right? You get a cush little spot on the board, right? And I think that's probably a bad idea. In fact, I think that I don't know if you've read about Clarence Thomas and his wife getting donations, or other liberal, even liberal judges that got donations, right, or gifts of monetary gifts from different institutions and things. I don't think that's good either. I think that should be disallowed. So I think that we should insulate them further than they already are. But yeah, I think that is one of the problems with a direct election.
I mean, my argument again would be that the reason I don't argue for all Supreme Court judges to, or I would never argue for all Supreme Court judges to be elected, and only a certain portion of it, is to have, like, hey, even though you're getting pressurized through politics or whatever, the other judges can, like, overrule you if I would say, like, let's say a 9 versus 3 kind of thing.
I don't know. Again, I don't know. This seems like weirdly complex. Honestly, the Supreme Court, we may not like some of its decisions. We may think some of its decisions are dog shit, right? But it's working as intended. And that's frustrating, but it protects us too, right? The Supreme Court during the Trump administration, even with the Trump appointees, like, there were a lot of decisions that they made that the conservatives did not like, right? There were a lot of decisions that they made, even with a conservative majority, that conservatives just did not like politically. But their duty isn't to the conservative party. Their duty is to the law, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's good and right. So yeah.
Awesome. Right. I do have another topic if we want to continue down that, but if there's anyone else,
buddy? Just because I'm feeling a good, and because it's you, because it's
okay.
you.
I knew finally all those super chats would come in handy.
True. This is. I told you, man, you're gonna get my face and my space. So this is what you paid for. This is your dime, buddy.
All right. Who would you elect between Trump and DeSantis?
Oh, who would I?
Wick sidestepped this question before.
If I had to pick, okay. Oh, yuck. And I can't even say this in jest without being tossed. DeSantis.
Okay.
Just because
I think, do you have any?
I think DeSantis, while he is terrible, at least somewhat respects institutions, right? I think he is unwilling to just be a bull in the china shop like Trump was, right? I think that, for example, DeSantis wouldn't just cut funding unilaterally to Ukraine. I think he'd go through steps to try to do it, right? But I don't think he would just do it. Whereas Trump, if he could get away with it, would absolutely, on a dime, just say, nope, we're not giving any more money to Ukraine. So that's one example of the reason I think DeSantis is preferable if I had only these choices to choose from. So
right. Fungus, do you have
any?
You would vote for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I could pick you up on your Supreme Court question. But no, there's 10 ordinary judges and 1 Supreme Court big honcho, big PP guy, and then that's it, or girl, and that's it. And that's pretty much it. That's like how it works. So, the appointment. There's like you have to be like a judge for a certain amount of time, I think, to be on one of those ordinary judges on the Supreme Court. Right. I think that's how it works anyway. But yeah, I educated myself today as a result of your question.
Nice. Well, education's the best thing you can put your time in.
It sure is.
Okay. So to Wick's point, how would you take this argument? I would rather vote for Trump than DeSantis because the Republican Party would be dispirited for 4 years, and whereas if Republican Party was united, we could see more extreme laws getting passed.
I don't think that would happen. I think that the Republican Party would simply fall in line with their leader, much like the Democratic Party often does. Not always, but the Republicans would just fall in line for the most part. I don't think it would dispirit them. I think that either way, some of their constituency would be dispirited. But more importantly, perhaps, I don't care about hurting their feelings or making them feel bad.
Sorry, I meant disparate, as in broken up.
Yeah,
like,
I don't.
disparate.
Yeah, I don't care about that so much, right? But if you're talking about be less cohesive and less coherent and that would be less effective, I guess I could see the argument for it. I just don't believe that would be the case, right? Because again, the power behind the throne isn't Trump or DeSantis, Mitch McConnell, right? He's the guy that gets things done, right? And whether you like it or not, right? The Speaker of the House and the leader of the Senate, they are the people who get shit done, whether it be on the Democratic side or on the Republican side. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's all the discussion topics I had. It was really nice chatting to you.
It was nice chatting to you. I always enjoy seeing you. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for saying
to the void.
And for
not even me.
Even you to the void. Not even all the money in the world can save you from the void. Everyone goes there eventually.
Damn.
To the void. Ugh. Gang, you can argue with me about Biden all you like. I still think he's a better president than Trump was, right? Even with all his gaffes and his falls, right? Even with the mistakes he's made, I think Biden's actually gotten a lot done. Or at least not gotten in the way of a lot of things done. I think the most important thing in his term as presidency is the funding of Ukraine, right? I think that we had a whole discussion on this last night. I think that alone, right, is enough to make me say, it's not the only piece of data I have here, but it's the one I'm going to focus on because it's the one I just talked about. So it's the one I'm most wrote up on currently, right? I think that funding Ukraine is a good thing. It is something we should continue to do, and I don't think Trump or DeSantis would have done it in the way that Biden has. So yes. Okay.
And Biden's Irish, so that's plus 1 point, right?
If you say so. I consider it a flaw. I overlook it, but here we are.
Okay, Buster.
Oh.
Whoa.
Oh no, I had him in for a second. Ferngully, you voided yourself like after a moment. I pulled you in.
Dude, I think they disconnected from the voice chat. Get in quick before he pulls in someone else. Go backstage again.
Yeah, go backstage before we get the next guy. Come on. Oh no. Well, hopefully he hears us and goes backstage again.
Yeah, come backstage again. Yeah.
What up? You're live.
Gogeta. You're pronouncing Gogeta's name wrong, by the way, Wick. The last time you had him, you said Gogeta.
Oh, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
Any Dragon Ball lore?
Look, I don't watch anime. I have sex. Okay, right? In the words of Lav, I don't watch anime. I have sex. One of the only true things she's ever said. But yeah. Hi, what's up, Gogeta? Yo, buddy.
I have both. Okay.
Okay, if you say so. What's up, brother?
Now just kind of listening in and everything, but the last thing you just said there about funding Ukraine, can you just elaborate? I just want to understand before I give my opinion. Like you said that it's a good thing that the United States is funding Ukraine.
Yes,
like, is that what I'm getting at?
Funding Ukraine against the Russians is good.
Against the Russians.
Mm-hmm. The Russians have invaded Ukraine and supplying Ukraine with money and material in order to stop Russia is good.
Do you think with the F-16s that they just gave Ukraine to use?
Unleash them? Yeah, beautiful.
You think we're about to enter a proxy war? Like,
we're already in it. We're already in it, man. Like, we are already in a proxy war with Russia right now. We are absolutely in a proxy war, and that's good. Russia needs to be stopped.
I don't know, man. I just don't want to see people dying. Like that's the one thing. I understand that like Russia started it. That's like it's not okay what Russia did. I don't see a solution where it's like I do not see the solution where things come to an end and everybody kind of gets a little bit of what they want. And it's going to be like a fair solution to where, okay, Russia, whatever ends, Russia doesn't get Ukraine. Ukraine either goes with NATO or doesn't go with NATO. and like I just don't see a good solution here, and I don't know if it's just gonna get worse.
It's gonna mean, I mean, to bring it back to me, it's probably gonna mean something for the state of like neutral states in Europe. Maybe we might have to like rethink, because if Russia can just like do that, yeah, I don't know. We're probably gonna have to rethink neutrality in Europe. Maybe.
So
I'm not sure.
the problem is I don't like people dying either, but right, there are some things which are more important than life. Being able to have freedom is more important. And the level of freedom, right, that Russia would take from these people, right, the atrocities and loss of life that they would visit on this people, with if they were not opposed, right, if they had free reign, and if Ukraine laid down its arms today, surrendered, right, and Russia was given Ukraine, or even a portion of Ukraine, the loss of life would be staggering, and the atrocities committed against these people would be staggering. And I think it's okay to oppose that with violent, lethal force. And in order to do so, I am okay with not only funding Ukraine with arms and material, but I would go so far as to get further involved, institute perhaps a no-fly zone over Ukraine, right? And saying anything you send in here, we will shoot down, right? We, as in NATO, right? I am okay with NATO actually getting physically involved and sending boots on the ground and saying, okay, no, we're going in and you are going to get out of Ukraine. Now, I know a lot of people don't like that opinion. I know it's dangerous. I agree, right? It's not a popular opinion. But I think that unless Russia is stopped here and...
Gogeta tried to turn on his cam and then got
I didn't
destroyed.
kick you, buddy.
No one kicked him. There was some minor confusion in chat. Look, I shouldn't be responding to chat, but it was about what I said. When I said like rethink neutrality in Europe, I don't mean everyone in Europe turns neutral. I mean the states that are neutral in Europe might have to rethink their neutral stance. Maybe just if all of
I don't know how far you
just...
got through that rant before you got kicked, Gogeta.
Oh, I heard everything. What
are your thoughts? Let's hear it.
I actually agree with everything you just said. Everything you just said, I agree with. My only concern is that Russia does have nuclear power, and I think like that's my issue. My issue is just that I don't think Russia's gonna back down if it comes to like using nuclear weapons. And if that's the case, then I mean, at that point, who isn't gonna get involved? You know, it's like there has to be, you know, like kind of like who's gonna be teaming up with Russia? Who's gonna be teaming up with the U.S.
So
You know,
so let me ask you this then: if we don't get involved, right? And Ukraine continues to hold off Russia, and Russia continues to lose, right? Assuming they are losing, let's assume, right, that they're not able to gain any more ground, and Ukraine starts pushing them back. We haven't entered the war, right? We're just funding them. Do you think that Putin would not use nukes at some point? Because I think he absolutely, if he's willing to use nukes, if NATO comes in, he's willing to use nukes if they lose this war here. I think he's all in on this. I don't think us going in raises the chance of nukes. I think the chance remains the same, and it's scary and it's frightening. But yeah, that's my reasoning behind my thoughts here. Right?
I think he doesn't want to. I don't think he wants to use nukes, and I don't think he wants to get to that. I just think that I don't see the solution, first of all, because if you don't see a solution and you can't really come up with like an outcome, I think that's the main problem. Because if you can't come up with an outcome and you can't resolve it, it's just kind of like left to chance to like, you know, who's gonna have the last hit, right? Who does the last strike? But I don't know. I mean, we're already involved technically, so at this point, it's more of we need to find a solution to end it. So.
I agree. We need to find a solution, but the solution to end it is to stopping Russia, right? That's the solution. If they were willing to withdraw from Ukraine entirely, they could stop the war.
Yeah, that would end it. That would
end it, right? They're not. And so we put force on them until they are, right? Like you make them be willing to do this, right? You make the cost for going into Ukraine so high that they're no longer willing to pay it.
I think it's also the I think I heard this yesterday where they were talking about how the U.S. the real reason that the U.S. really wants to get Ukraine is so that they have like a proxy to Russia, so they're very close to being able to have Russia within the border, I guess. And
Why would we
that
need
makes sense.
Yeah, but why would we need that?
That's the thing. I don't know, but
The
I heard
US
that
has
and it
capable
made me
of force
think.
projection. If we wanted to go to Russia today, we could. We don't need a land state next to it.
Sure, but we also don't want to start the war, right? Like we don't actually want to go into
No,
some
no,
type of war
obviously
with
going
it.
I would not, like, to be clear, I would not support boots on the ground in Russia, right? I would support boots on the ground in Ukraine. They wouldn't cross into Russia. I think that would be an escalation too far, but they would hold the border, much like we did before the Gulf War in Kuwait, right? Where Baghdad, right, and Saddam Hussein, the instigator of the Gulf War, was them invading Kuwait, right? And we
Yeah.
promised Kuwait our protection, right? And so we said, hey, get out, or we're going to fuck you up. I think we should do something similar for Ukraine, right? And say, okay, now they're under our protection. Assuming Ukrainians want this, that's clear. I want to be very clear on that. If Ukrainian want this, right? Which from the ones I've talked to, they do, right? But they don't see it as a reasonable thing, because most people don't have my take on this. Most people would say, no, just keep funding them, right? I think that's most of the supporters of the war on the Ukrainian side. I think that's that's the general American take, right? No boots on the ground, no fly zone, no NATO involvement other than funding, right? We can train their troops.
Yeah.
We can fund and equip their troops, but we can't put troops in, right? I disagree. I think we need to.
I have one question.
yeah.
I have one question. What do you think the United States would gain from this? Besides actually helping Ukraine stay, being able to stay Ukraine
there are
if they
plenty
win.
of material benefits to this, right? We get an ally in the region that has access to resources such as a huge breadbasket. Ukraine supplies a lot of the world's grain, right? That's a huge get, right? To have favorable relations with them. That's awesome, right? It does put pressure on Russia to keep them from doing this shit in other areas, right? And it demonstrates to Russia and to China, right, that if you do this shit, we will respond. Like, China's looking at Taiwan right now, right? China's looking at Taiwan and saying, and they're waiting, right? They're waiting for their chance to go in and just forcibly take it, right?
Yeah.
America has said, no, if you do that, we will stop you. We need to do the same thing for Ukraine. That's all.
I agree with that point. It's just, this started more than a year ago. No, 2 years ago. The war started, like, I think close to 2 years ago, and it's just
right?
year and a half ish. But
I
don't know. I wish it was just end, because I mean, it's just, I honestly, like, every time I go on Twitter, all I see is like all the videos of all the like families, and there's people that are even like live streaming. Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to see that. Like, that's just horrible.
It sucks,
Yeah.
but you know what? You should watch it. Even if
No, I
it
mean, I
sucks.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, even like, and this is not just to you, it's to everyone, right? Like, this is why I'm for war photography. Even if it's terrible, right? You need to watch it, because you need to see the results of inaction. And this is the results of inaction. If we allow, right, Russia to win, right, in Ukraine, we're just kicking the can in the road. They're going to do this again. Maybe not in a year's time, maybe not in 5 years' time, maybe not in 10 years' time, but eventually they will. Like, as long as the same leadership is in charge, right? The same style of leadership. It doesn't have to be Putin himself. Like, if you got rid of Putin today, another oligarch would take his place, right? Yeah, it's a problem, and we need to just basically defang them. And I think this is a good opportunity to do so. And it's also a moral opportunity to do so. So there's not only material benefit for America, but we get to do something good in the world. And sure, you can say, well, why don't we do good in the world in other places? And we should do that too. But here is, I think, a very clear-cut case where our material interests and moral interests intersect. Intersectionality, gang.
Here's a hypothetical. I'm not pro-Trump, but here's a hypothetical. If Trump were to win the election, and within a few months, Trump was able to just end the war with Russia. Like whatever he did or whatever, he talks to Putin or whatever the terms are, he ends the war. Would you be okay with would you change your mind and being like, okay, well, I'm kind of pro Trump just because like it ended the war, or is your stance?
Look, if I had any reasonable expectation that Trump would be able to drive Russia out, that Trump's leadership would be so powerful, right, that it would just drive Russia, it would send Putin knees a trembling, right, and it would make him pull his forces back to unconditionally surrender, etc., etc. Maybe I'd vote for Trump, but I have no reasonable expectation of that to happen.
Yeah.
I have no reasonable
I
belief
agree.
that would happen. If it could be shown to me that it has a reasonable degree of certainty to succeed, sure, I'll vote for Trump. But I don't think that's going to be shown to me, right? I doubt. I'm pressing.
I don't think it's probable. Yeah, I don't think it's probable. But I mean, I think that's just one of those things that a lot of people. I guess the reason why they want Trump in office, one of them is that basically that he will put a stop to the war. But I don't know. I just thought it would be a crazy hypothetical.
Like,
yeah, exactly. What conditions would that be?
Yeah,
that he was able to...
would Ukraine cede its land, its territory? I don't think that's acceptable. But it's not for me to decide that. It's for Ukraine to decide that. And Ukrainians I've talked to have all said, no, that is not acceptable. That is just overwhelmingly like, no, we do not want them to have an inch of our ground. Which, I get it, right? Okay. Anything else for it?
Well, Wick. No. I really recommend playing the new Legend of Zelda. You need to play it.
Well, you need to give me enough money to buy a Switch.
I've been sick for like the last 2 weeks, and I've been playing that game. And buddy, you do not know how good it is.
I don't, and you need to show me with money. But for now, I'll send you to the void.
To the void.
Hey, one last caller. We'll do one more, then we'll call it a night, gang. For real?
No shot, dude.
For
Fern,
real?
come back.
Was it?
Fern,
Wait, am I doing something wrong here?
No, I don't think you are. I think you're moving them properly. Fern, you don't have to press the call button. Okay, hold on, I'll try. This is so weird. No, we can't end the call-in show like this. Join again, Fern.
Try one more time. I'll let Fungus here try.
I'm gonna try and pull them into another another
Why would you go to another
channel?
one?
Well, so I'm gonna pull them into another channel to see if that's necessarily the issue with us pulling them in.
Okay, try.
Right? Okay.
Oh, I think just moving them. I think.
Yeah. See, I moved them into the cell phone callers chat, and then they just.
Yeah, I think this is a problem on his end. Sucks. Yo, I'm sorry. Right, but that's what we can do. Okay. Let's try.
Yep.
I want to do this.
We could move to backstage. Oh
it's
no!
It's just not working, brother. It's just not.
The way
working.
is we could move to backstage, but then everyone could come in. So no good.
Does he have a role? Let me make sure his role's fine. Let me look. Profile. I don't know. Do you see a role on this guy? Yeah, he has a role. He has a role.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try something. I did it. Now let me remove that role real quick.
Please.
Yeah, okay. There we go. Hello.
Hi, Fern.
Hey, can you hear me? Sorry about that. I had actually...
Oh, we could hear you, but then you muted yourself.
Yeah, he muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yes.
Welcome.
What's up?
I had to switch to my phone in order to join up for some stupid reason.
Sorry, I don't know.
No, you know what? I've been watching a lot of your content lately. I've been putting it on while I'm at work and just going through a lot of your backlog. I'm one of those guys that all the leftists tried to warn you off against the other day. I'm the regular righty conservative that's supposedly evil.
Okay.
And no, you know what? When it comes down to it, I'm just a 40-year-old guy that is just a regular average guy, and I think a lot of the far leftist stuff kind of puts a lot of people off and almost pushes you away. It's almost like if you don't fully agree with everything you say, you can't be their friend. They won't talk to you, and you're just evil. And it's nice to see somebody like you with just like a moderate attitude that you can kind of go, either. I like that either way, because everything isn't in a linear line. Everything's got curves to
I'm
it,
not
and
an
you just gotta play with the
ideologue.
curves.
I'm not
Yeah.
an ideologue, right? So if the conservatives are right on an issue, I'll agree with them. If the liberals are right on an issue, I'll agree with them. If the
Yeah.
leftists are right on an issue, I'll agree with them. Like,
And I hate the conservative side too, where it's no matter what you do, as dumb as it is, you're in lockstep. While it's what makes them strong, it's it brings out all the crazies and nutsos, and everybody just swings around. So it's stupid both ways. Realistically, the thing that's I'm not I'm not right at all. I'm very center. I lean definitely more to the right, have conservative values, just the area I grew up in, the background. But I definitely have some liberal takes. And when it comes down to it, it's it's you just get pushed away to the point where you don't even want to even try anymore.
Let me ask, what's your most liberal take, if you had to pick?
Well, definitely, I could care less about if you're gay, if you're trans, whatnot. As long as you're happy and you don't
Support
affect my
trans
life in any
rights.
negative
Beautiful.
way or anything like that,
Support
I could care.
LGBTQ. It's Pride Month, gang.
I could care less what you do as long as you're a decent person and you don't try and steal anything from me. You don't try and rob me. You don't try and do anything. That's all that really matters in life.
Well, cool. That's I wish more people in general, right, left and center, had that view on things. Unfortunately, they don't. We've chosen these groups to be battlegrounds in a culture war, and I think that's unfortunate for them, right?
Yeah, I know. Realistically, I think the only way moving forward, if we're going to keep this, the party system, is we definitely need to break out to a third party. Whatever it is. I think the main issue with the Democratic Party is it tries to cater too much to everybody, and when you're trying to cater to everybody, nobody gets anything.
Yes
and I think that's one of the major problems. While it's good that everybody's inclusive, if we're fighting, you've seen it many times where legislation passed for the the LGBT community, and the black community will turn around and say, wait, we've been trying to get something passed on our end, and vice versa, all around everywhere. And this isn't a racial issue or anything. I'm just using it as an example. There's an old adage I used to hear with you give everybody $100 and somebody's going to say, I should have got 120. So
Fungus, you got any thoughts for this young man or this?
Yeah, I think
man?
when you
one of the few people who's older than me, so let me have this, okay? Right, let me have this one. Right, go ahead, Fungus.
We're this closer to finding out Wick's real age. Let's go, gang.
Well, I tell you, I'm not. It's not a secret. I'm 39.
Oh my goodness!
There you go.
A year between you.
You're right there.
Well, so I think being demonized for your views excessively is really, really bad. I think people are getting alienated from the more divisive things. And I think when advocates maybe promote the demonization of other people, it can be really damaging to maybe the world that they even want to see. I would, but I'm not sure the world they want to see in all cases. People can get like really righteous indignation. They'd be like really, really angry. Maybe the anger is like valid. But I mean, you've said you've lost like friends or whatever because of your political beliefs, or maybe the difference you have between people. Was that right?
Well, I mean, when COVID hit, everything kind of just multiplied. Everybody went online, and it seems like everybody just hated each other for some dumb reason, one or another. And during COVID, I think when everybody was just locked in on the phones, everything was brewing up for a while, but that was just the boiling point when and it almost feels like it hit like the point of no return. Because every day, just between the far left and the far right, it just seems like everything just gets crazier, and it's who can out crazy who next. So,
I think, I think that demonizing yeah, like the polarization of it is a really problematic part of the discourse, especially when it comes to online, when people are also dehumanized. And also, here's another one. I think people are incentivized by social media to have like opinions on things that they don't know about and they don't really care about.
I was a very neutral blocker on Facebook where I didn't care if you're left or right. If when I'm trying to go through my feed, if you were the only name I saw over and over and over and over and over again, I didn't care what you said. I'm just blocking you because it just got to the point where there's information overload and everybody's just on edge always. And you know, when I look at a lot of these the debates that you guys do, you know, for instance, you guys just did that whole Russia debate with that you hosted. And it's like I don't even understand where.
Did you like that debate, by the way? I don't mean to interrupt you, but what? I
enjoyed it.
Okay.
Scott's an interesting figure, and I don't understand what brings somebody to the point where you make a comment. I know he was backpedaling and he tried clarifying it later on, but I don't know how you throw that the thing about honest father in her face. As she's just trying to explain her situation, trying to, speak to us in a language that's not her own. So she's trying to pick her words carefully. And,
okay, I need to, I'm sorry, I need to address this because I've seen this a lot, right? Anna was fine with it. Anna had no issue with it, right?
I understand that. I'm not trying to white knight for Anna.
Okay, I'm just making, because a lot of people are. I'm seeing a lot of people. Why didn't you kick Scott? Why didn't you get rid of Scott? Why didn't you get rid of Fabian? Things like you should have immediately ejected Fabian like that.
My biggest
Anna's
thing with
fine
Scott
with it. What's your problem? Allow her the chance, the opportunity to shit all over him for the next 2 hours, right? Why save him? Why protect him from her by kicking him? That's stupid, right?
I don't disagree.
Huge optics W.
I don't disagree. My biggest issue with Scott is, and I do like a lot of it. I do like most of his takes. But he loses me when he always brings it back to the state, and he always brings it back to how
you're preaching to the fire in that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's when I'm usually my eyes start rolling hard, and it's like, all right, I can kind of picture where this conversation is going just from seeing the topic, and but other than that, thanks for making Mr. President a little more palatable for everybody.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I think it's completely a credit to you. On your Sundicks?
Well, I know. Look. Okay, I still have substantive problems with President Sunday and how I
search. I didn't run on SoundCloud.
Right.
Sorry.
I have very big problems with how he treated Erudite. Right. I'm not like okay with that. Right. I do worry sometimes. Right. That I'm giving the impression that I am, but I'm not. But even if I have substantive differences with people, even if I think they're, in some cases just entirely wrong and immoral and harmful, I can still be cordial. I can still work with them. I think that's a feature, not a flaw in me. I think that's a good thing, and I wish more people were like that. But
yeah. From hearing, just through the past, because I started watching Destiny probably around the time COVID hit. During lockdowns.
Yeah.
And through there, I got linked through into Chud and whatnot, into you, and following all the way through. Did I hear that?
The pipeline. Got you.
The pipeline, the Orbiters Club. Did you said you served at one point?
Yes,
was
I
it
was
the
in
Air
the
Force?
Air Force. I was a crypto linguist for a few years, and then I was reclassed to be a crew chief. And I worked on the KC-135 airframe.
That's pretty
for a few
badass.
years. Yeah, I don't know if it's badass, but it was what I did. I served honorably. I got out, and here I am.
Did you see the video clip of Biden at the commencement speech?
Yeah, the one where he fell down. Yeah, that's hot.
Yeah.
He fell down. He's old.
Let me ask you this as a final question, and I don't even want to talk about Ukraine, whether or not we should be there, or not. World War III, Trump or Biden running the show?
Ooh,
I'm not saying Trump is going to come in and just stop it right away.
Honestly, if World War III happens, I don't want either one of them running the show. I want to run the show. I want to be the one in charge. But if I had to pick, I would think Biden.
I didn't really think Trump's foreign policy. I mean, he was definitely over the top, and he definitely said a lot of shit. But like when it came to North Korea, when he first got into office, tensions were high with North Korea. I mean, at the end of Obama, you had that, you know, it was fake missile crisis over Hawaii, but tensions were high with North Korea, and somehow he calmed that guy down. And you know,
I think we're crediting Trump here when maybe I think it was
you gotta call strikes when there's strikes.
Maybe, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, this is also true. We have to be like, even if there's like an opponent, like demonizing for opinions on that topic. When our political enemy, or I don't like that phrase, but when our political
adversary
opposite does something good, it's probably safe, and in fact even admirable to praise them for it. But
yeah, because
I don't even.
It's just been a long time since I like that. That was what.
That was literally 2016.
Yeah, almost 8 years ago now, and so
yeah.
I'm
he definitely did a lot of dumb stuff, but you know, with that, the funding for the HBCUs, I mean, I don't understand. You know, you never hear anybody talk about any of that stuff, and I know it's like few and far between, but everything was just so crazy on the news cycles. Everything was just Trump all day long, and it was like, he picked his nose and wiped it on his pie.
What people want to see. A Twitch poll took a hit when Trump didn't get elected too, right? No one had anything to talk about anymore, which sucks for them. But I have things to talk about. I have issues that transcend politics and transcend different political opinions. Thank you,
from the serious to the silly.
For now,
yeah, thank you for taking me in
to the void with him, gang. It's been a journey, a day for you, the community, to call in, for me to rant about my silly opinion, my serious opinion, right? As a Fungus said here. Fungus here has been a wonderful co-host, right? A wonderful co-host. So thank you for taking time out of your evening. I know it's late there, to come and play with us, and enjoy this time together, gang. It is the first of the month. I am trying very hard to make this something I can live off of, right? I have some nest eggs. Yeah, I have some fun still, but I want to, in order to keep doing this full time like I do, in order to bring you content every day, I do need your help. I do need you to come in and support me financially, and the way you do that is through gift subs, bits, super chats, and things like that. I really appreciate. If you can't, I understand. Like, take care of your own first, absolutely, right? But if you have $5 extra, if you have a little change in your pocket, right, and you value what I do, if you think what I do is a good thing, please, I could use it. I could really use your help, and thank you for that. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be having a talk with Prime Kai, Eucharist, Jebtan, PF Young, and Fairy Queen. And we're going to be talking about religion. Dang. Ooh, spicy, right? Well, we'll see how it goes. Does religion have any value to the modern day society? Should we be promoting it? Should we be neutral towards it? Or should we get rid of it? I don't know. We're going to find out tomorrow. Tune in next time, gang. Any final thoughts from Fungus?
No. Thank you for having me, Wick. Appreciate it.
For being here.
It was a fun, good experience. My first experience actually being live on someone else's channel. So.
Oh well, I'm glad that I was able to use you first. I hope you were gentle.
Well, I mean, yes. did a bit of
so not
streaming during
really
the quarantine.
Your first, okay, not.
Well, I mean,
really
I did.
Your
Hey,
first.
look,
I see how this is. Like, yeah, you're. I'm a virgin, right? Yeah, whatever. Okay, we're gonna right into Reservoir. Make sure you spam his channel with all sorts of hateful comments. Make sure you get those emotes up and you start throwing those out too. But yeah. Bye-bye.